So, Reverend Michael Niba,
Thank you.
it's an honor to be with you, Mrs. Florence.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the wonderful reception.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm here for a very, very serious function. I'm here because one of our own Cameroonian-born Bishop, Bishop Feudjio, the very first African native, was appointed bishop in the United States of America. It was breaking news, and he's now in Cameroon celebrating his Thanksgiving masses. And I've taken this initiative to research about him so that we document his life so that people can learn from his parcours. And that's why I'm here today. I'm highly honored to be with you. Thanks to Father Aqua. Thank you so much, Father Maurice Aqua, for connecting and making this possible. I'm so grateful to you. I know you're listening to us. So, Reverend Niba, dear viewers, I have the honor to be with the very first English-speaking Cameroonian-born permanent deacon in the United States of America. You know, when he came to Cameroon in 2007, I was studying philosophy then in Nigeria, and I read in the LF4 Cameroonais, which is the ecclesiastical magazine of the Archdiocese of Douala. I read it there about, I saw you, Mrs. Florence, with the kids. You know, it was breaking news in the ecclesiastical post of Bamenda. We had never seen that before. So, dear viewers, I have the honor to be with the very first English-speaking Cameroonian born to be a permanent deacon in the United States of America. Before I continue with my questions on the bishop, I would like to begin with you. Tell me more about the parcours. Where were you born?
I was born in a village, Bawum, in Bafoot.
I see.
And that was on the 20th of July, 1958. It was a Sunday.
Oh, wow.
My mother had gotten up and was preparing to go to church.
Yes.
And the high mass of at that time, that was what she used to attend. But in the course of doing that, she went into labor, and she never got to receive the Eucharist, but she received me as a Sunday gift in the house.
Wow.
That's how I was born.
Interesting. What a coincidence. That's so powerful on Sunday.
That's right.
Dies Domini Dominis. That's the day of the Lord. So, tell me more about your family background. How were your parents those days? Were they close to the church? And tell me more about how your Catholic faith.
I grew up as a Catholic.
Okay.
As I told you, I was born on a Sunday,
Yes.
and the 3rd of August,
Okay.
which was also a Sunday, that's when I was baptized.
Interesting.
My parents, Andrea Ambe,
Okay.
late. He died 4 years when I was 4 years old.
Oh, may so rest in peace.
Was Catholic,
Okay.
but he became Catholic as an adult.
Okay.
My mother too became Catholic as an adult. She probably was about 18.
I see.
But I grew up. I would say I was born into a Catholic family, and I grew up in a Catholic family and in a Catholic setting.
I see.
Yes.
Mrs. Florence, tell me more about your childhood. Where were you born?
I was born in Macon, Bamenda,
Okay.
1968.
Was you on the Sunday too?
I don't remember the day.
Okay.
That I don't remember the day, but I know I was born in a Catholic setting. I went through primary school in St. Joseph Catholic School, Big Macon,
Okay.
and I went to St. Bede's College.
I see.
And so I've pretty much been in a Catholic setting.
Wow.
And my
Very
desire was to end up being Catholic,
Wow.
which I am today.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. Before I get back to you about the Permanent Deacon program, I would like to continue with our Reverend Niba. Tell me more about, so you grew up primary school. Tell me more about your primary school experience.
Went to school in St. Joseph's.
Oh, where she went to?
No, St. Joseph she went to is in Mancon.
Okay.
But there is a St. Joseph in Bafoot.
Oh, I see.
St. Joseph's Catholic School. It's a parish.
Okay.
The Bafoot parish is a very large one. The geographical circumscription has boundaries with Mancon, Bamwi, and then all the way down to Benakuma, Bekuniam, Womb area.
Okay.
So it's a very vast area with 21 outstations.
Really large.
Yes. So the parish, or what they used to call it at the time, the main mission, that's where I went to school.
Okay.
My 7 years of primary education were there. of course, and I finished.
Yes.
I went to secondary school in Mamfe.
Before we go to move on to Mamfe, during that 7 years in primary school, did you come in contact with some priests? How's the education then, and who supported you?
That's going to be a very long story.
I
don't know if your camera can take that.
It will. So we're
Yes.
telling yours to Mrs. Florence, because I'd like to get your story.
At the time that I was growing up, my father died when I was 4 years old. So my mother was not remarried, and life was very difficult, and she could not be supported in her spouse's land. So we moved back to my grandmother's house. And so my grandmother was the one who was literally doing everything for me, to the point where people thought that I was the last born of my grandmother.
Interesting.
My grandmother was a devout Catholic, and whenever she went to Mass, she took me along. In the times that I would go to church, I had an interest in seeing what was happening at the altar. And Mass used to be very interesting in those days. You had the altar servers who would kneel down, then at some point you would see they sway their heads this way and this way. And so it was a curiosity of what is the priest doing.
Exactly.
And of course the priest was not facing the people, so there was always that anxiety to see what was going on there.
Okay.
So if my grandmother went to church and did not go far enough, I was on her back, and sometimes I would actually climb to stand on her shoulders to see what was going on there. There is the point where I'm very conscious of this, where I used to come and play father in the house.
Interesting.
And when the priest said the gospel and they translated it, or he was preaching and they was translating. So I would come at home and I would play father, and I would also want people to translate. There was things that, and I would serve stones as communion for people in the house, forcing them to eat these stones, that this is communion. So I'm playing this thing of a priest.
Interesting.
There is a day where I'm walking down the path in our compound, doing Stations of the Cross, and Father Walters comes around.
Was he the parish priest then?
He was a parish priest.
From the Mill Hill?
From the Mill Hill.
Okay, Walters.
Yes.
Okay.
Father Walters comes around and he sees me walking down the route, and my mother, they're trying to stop me. He said, no, just let me watch him and see what he's doing.
Okay.
But I think that's probably how I developed an interest in the church. Later on, I would become an altar server. But before I became an altar server, I studied doctrine very hard to get the first communion.
I see.
I think in my class, we were interviewed by Father John Corkman, who was the curate of the parish at the time. And it was a very tough interview with questions, because he did not want you to memorize questions. Yes, he wanted you to know, especially the prayers. So how I succeeded was because there were three of us.
Yes.
And after we answered the questions, then he said, talk the prayer, sorry. Oh my God, I am very sorry because I've been doing bad against you. Stop. Then he lit a cigarette and was smoking. Then after that, he came back and said, continue. So I continued. The other two friends did not continue.
Why?
Because they had forgotten, they lost track. So he said, you go, you failed, you passed.
So he was trying to test to see who memorized it and who knows.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's how, and then I received First Communion.
Do you remember the year?
That was 1964.
Oh wow, interesting.
And
thank you.
Then at that time, then I was in school and I started to, I was too small to start serving Mass.
I see.
Because the vestments for the Mass servers, they were so long.
So long for you.
Yeah. But by 1966, I was actually serving Mass.
Okay.
And I continued onto that path. And I was a Mass server all through primary school. I think around class 4 and 5.
Yes.
I was made head of the altar servers. So I was the one assigning the altar servers who they were going to serve where. And it was a big thing for me because when you had feast days like Christmas,
Yes.
Easter, Palm Sunday, where they would say they want 12 altar servers.
Yes.
Of course, I'm one already,
Exactly.
so I have to figure out who the other 11 are.
Exactly, you decide. It was such an honor, you know. And back in those days, every child would want to serve mass.
Yes.
And all such.
But I was not very fortunate in my school attendance because I didn't have the money to continue. So every now and then,
primary school.
Yeah, I would go to school.
Okay.
And then they would say, okay, the first 2 weeks of grace.
Yes.
Then the next week, you pack your books, you go to school, and then they say, those who have not paid their fees, stand up. Then you stand up, they send you home. Then you go home.
Yes.
And then through some commercial selling of food products, yes, you may get about 200, 300, then you come and pay again, and then you sit in class. When that 300 is exhausted, you are sent away.
Oh. So you really went through that.
Then in 1967, Father Kofon, Engelbert Kofon, Monsignor Engelbert Kofon now came to Bafut in 66, so in 67, he paid my school fees.
Wow.
So that year...
Why did you approach him, or he just willingly?
No, I did not show up to serve mass on a school day because I had been driven away from school, so the next day I wasn't coming to school, so I didn't come for mass. So he wanted to find out what happened.
Okay.
Then he found out I was driven away for school fees, so he paid my school fees.
Wow.
That year. So that year I was not sent away.
Okay. Interesting. So that's apart from him, were there other priests during that time? During you came in contact with?
He was with me all along until I was in class 6 when he left for Rome.
Okay. So what happened?
But before he left for Rome, he introduced me to Father James Sokika, Monsignor James Sokika, who is late now.
May so rest in peace.
Yes. And he took over from him.
Oh wow.
So Monsignor Sokika,
yes.
I was interacting with him, and when it came time for the common entrance,
yes.
I did not. Traditionally, you had to get pictures on your application where the acceptance slip will come back with it, which is what you will take into the examination room.
Yes.
The year before, I had managed to write the entrance and I passed.
Okay.
But I did not have money to pay for what they used to call is it caution fee? No, not caution fee.
Or application fee to the college?
Yes. There was some, the terminology is not there, but I couldn't afford that money.
Okay.
That was in class 6. Oh. So could I have had the means, I would have left for secondary school early in class 6, yes. Oh. So I stayed another year.
Okay.
So this year now I'm in class 7.
Yes.
Then Monsignor comes in and then helps me, took my pictures.
Oh my God.
And said, okay, these pictures cost 150 francs.
Was he a photographer?
He was doing photography as a hobby.
Oh wow, we had a camera.
Yes, in those days, to write the common entrance, because there were no photographers around. Yes. If you were lucky, you would have a photographer who would come to school. Otherwise, you had to go to Malcolm Town to go and take your passport size pictures there.
Which is very far.
So him doing it as a hobby, now he could take pictures of students in school or the children in school at a reduced cost.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I did not have the 150 francs. And he said, okay. I walked up to him and I said, I want to take this picture, but I don't have the money.
Okay. What did he say?
So how are you going to get the money? I said, I'll tell my parents. Okay. They will come and pay you later on. He wrote me a letter with the pictures, and I took it to one of my uncles, and he said he didn't have money. I came back and complained to him. Okay. It's all right. If you pass the common entrance,
you won't pay.
You will not pay.
And you did pass?
I passed in very good grades. I passed in list A. That Excellent. Was very impressive for him. So I didn't pay the 150 francs.
Interesting.
Passing in list A now earned me a spot in government grammar school, Manfred.
For secondary school?
Yes.
Why Manfred?
at the time when you wrote the entrance,
Okay.
you had two choices to pick: your first choice
Yes.
and the second choice. And these were all mission schools.
Oh.
There were no government school. The only government school that you had was a bilingual grammar school in Yaoundé,
Okay.
and then Moliko, as what you call secondary schools.
Yes.
Then you had technical colleges like Ombe,
Okay.
which were government. Mamfe was just coming up, and nobody really knew anything about Mamfe.
Okay.
But on the acceptance slips
Yes.
for your choices, the government schools were not mentioned.
Wow.
Now, if you happen to pass in list A,
Yes.
then you will be interviewed to go into one of those schools.
Oh, okay. So you were interviewed.
So when I passed in list A, I was now interviewed.
Yes.
And then my interview took place at St. Peter's Teachers Training College, which is where you have the seminary today.
Okay. St. Peter's in
Bamwe.
Oh.
Yes.
Interesting.
You had the Teachers Training College,
Yes.
and then the practicing school.
Okay.
So that was there. We went there for the interviews.
Yes.
The priority was given to those who passed in list A to be interviewed. Of course, Bishop Rogan was my first choice,
Yes.
but because I passed in list A, I had to be interviewed first
Okay.
for the government school. So I went to the government school and to be interviewed.
Yes.
They said, no, but you have here Bishop Rogan, go to Bishop Rogan.
Okay.
So I went and I met Father Fonte.
Okay.
Father
Who was
Fonte,
rector then?
who was rector of Bishop Rogan.
Okay. How did you meet him? Did he come or did he?
No,
visit?
he was there because all the principals of the schools were represented in the area.
Okay, I see.
Yes. He said, no, but have you been interviewed for the government school? I said, no, I went there and they asked me to come and see you. And he said, no, I cannot do that. You go, the government has to interview you first. So I went back.
Okay.
Then I realized I was going to be sent back. So in the course of this, so what is going to happen?
Exactly.
So I told a lie.
Okay.
So when the principal asked me, Mr. Akwari,
Yes.
he's still alive, and he asked me, have you been interviewed in Bishop Rogan? So I told a lie. I said, yes, sir. Then he said, okay, then I can now interview.
So else should have sent you back.
Yes.
So
So
you
he
interviewed.
asked me a few questions.
Okay.
Then I answered. He said, okay, I'm done with you.
Wow.
Now I left now to go and continue with Bishop. By the time I went there, Father Fonte had closed his station.
Oh my God.
So that's how I ended up.
In Manfred.
Now, but I did not know that I was being interviewed for Manfred.
Okay.
It is only when the results came out, because I thought I was being interviewed for Moliko.
Oh,
And I went and looked at my name under Moliko. I did not find it.
can you imagine?
3 weeks later, I received a letter
Yes. Of admission.
of acceptance.
Acceptance.
But it was coming from Manfred. That was the first time I knew that there was a government school in Manfred. The story here is that Manfred was not well known at the time. So all those students who were interviewed, it was now a question of assignment.
Okay.
All right, here is the list. This list, Boya. This list, Yaoundé. This list, Manfred. So that's how they were picking, and that's how I ended up in Manfred.
Wow. Can you imagine? That's interesting. Mrs. Florence, did you have contact with some priests in primary school?
Oh, yes.
Can you shed some light on some of the priests that really touched your life then?
Sometimes in 1975,
Okay.
that's when our father died.
Okay.
And
Yes, so let's see.
Father Joseph Bokema was in the Archbishop's house and was one of the mentors of my parents.
Okay.
And would tell my mother, if there's anything, Lucy, come and see me.
Wow.
So with that background, we grew up knowing that there was support.
From the parish?
Yes, and we had lots of priests, but Father Bokema, Joseph Bokema,
Yes.
is very, very remembered
Okay.
in 1975. And
Mid-Hill priest, right?
he was a male priest, right?
Okay. Okay.
He would counsel my mother when she's crying. My mother was 31 when my father died.
Oh, very young.
So yes, she was a very young widow.
Okay.
And most of the missionaries knew her
Okay.
because she used to be a cashier in CCC at the time.
Oh.
CCC is like, it was a private-owned Indian firm.
Okay.
So she was a cashier and my father was one of the managers.
I see.
So they knew them very well, and Father Engelbert Kufon, they all knew them because they would buy from them and they would escort them to the car and so forth.
Okay.
So I grew up in the hands of Reverend Sisters and priests.
Did you meet Monsignor Kofon? Did you know him?
Yes, I knew him as a child.
Okay, okay.
I knew him as a child. I still remember one day we went to school and I was in Bambili.
Yes.
And we were going to make an ID for one of my friends who was writing Q's entrance.
Yes.
And we ran into him. He knew me because I'm a replicant of my mom.
Okay.
He said, I know where you come from. Your mother is in the main market, right? I said, yes, Father. So right there, I knew, say, greet her for me.
Wow.
So it was just there. Since her position was not just the priest,
Yes.
CPC, but the principals like Reverend Dingwan,
Okay.
all of those, they knew him. They knew her very well.
Wow.
And they knew my father very well. So our store in the main market
Yes.
was just at the entrance.
Wow.
After my mother seceded from the firm,
Yes.
they had some businesses in the main market.
Okay.
So I grew up in a very business setting.
Wow.
So most of the clergies, most of the prominent people in Bamenda we knew.
They always come there to do their shopping.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for that. Now we're going to the secondary school.
That before then,
Okay.
there is, because you had an interest in
Yes.
knowing about these priests.
Yes.
There were also, besides, and I'm going to come back to that,
Okay.
there is a Reverend Sister, Sister Margaret Mary of blessed memory.
Okay.
I self-admitted myself in school
Wow.
because I had a longing to go to school. So
Okay.
when
Why?
when they had the measure like this,
Yes.
and my hand couldn't reach like this, so
So that is true. That happened.
yes. So when they took my hand and put it, it couldn't reach down on the part of my ear, so I was rejected.
Oh my God.
So my aunt, who was also my babysitter,
Yes.
she was, I think, she was in class standard 1.
Okay.
So when she goes to school,
Yes.
and there's nobody now to babysit me, I'm hanging around.
Just playing.
Yeah, so one day I'm standing by the window in the classroom where she is, and then the children are all playing in the field.
Okay.
So the headmaster comes out and then said something in English. Of course, I'm not understanding English, but he said something and pointed to the direction where the children were playing in the field. So I took off and I was so happy running. In my mind, I knew that I had been admitted in school. So I went and joined the children.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm running and playing with them. They bear around.
You went to class?
They all going to class, so I followed them and I went to class.
So did the teacher
I'm coming to, I'm going to class.
Yes.
They are taking attendance, so they call your name, press, and you sit down. After a few days, when they call every name, I'm still standing up, so they wrote my name in the register. The Reverend Sister wrote my name in the register.
Wow. She just added you.
Yes, added me, and
Margaret Meg, Sister Margaret Meg.
yes,
Wow.
I did not have an envelope, and I did not have a book and a pencil.
Wow.
So she created a space on the dusty floor.
Oh.
When they sweep the floor and water the floor, she kept that place because that's where I was doing my writing and my arithmetic.
So you had no desk?
I had a desk, but
Yes.
you have to sit on the desk. You had to have an arm board
Exactly.
to write,
Which
there,
you didn't have.
which I did not.
Oh,
have.
see.
So she created this place on this floor.
Oh.
So when she does 1 + 1, 2 minus this, so she comes and writes the same thing on the floor. Then I come and do my answers there with my counting sticks.
Oh, God.
Then she will come and put a check mark there.
Okay.
Criticism.
Then I used to call that check mark Nkante.
Which means?
This is the thing, you know how you put the hole.
Yes.
The arm of the hole, it has that hook like this.
Exactly.
And when you do the check, it has that thing. So I will count all those, that's how I was checking my progress. Then I'll go home and I will tell them I had 6 Nkante sauce. That means I had 6 check marks. I had to memorize that because there's no way to transport that form.
Exactly. Oh my God.
So
What an experience.
So Sister Margaret Mary laid the foundation for
for
me.
you.
She was so patient with me.
Oh my God.
And one day when they came auditing for school fees, she was short, and the person who made her short was me because I never paid the fees.
So what did she say? Did
So,
she ever call you?
They called up my uncle, and my uncle said, well, I never brought the child.
Good. The child
So
went on.
whoever brought him, however, if you allow him in and he passes, just like Monsignor Sopika said.
Yes.
So that term, I was the first in grade C.
Wow.
And my uncle went and paid the school fees, 75 francs.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. So you were very, very erudite and hardworking student.
And I'm very happy that in 2007,
Yes.
as a deacon, when I took the family and we went to Cameroon, we met Sister Margaret
Oh
Mary
my God.
in the bishop's house.
Can you imagine? She was so moved.
Yes.
And she remembered you.
And we had exchanges with her when I came back, and she was in her mother's house. Actually, I used to send somebody and we would correspond, and a week after my last correspondence with her, she died.
Oh.
Now, coming down to Father Kofon,
Yes.
Monsignor Kofon,
Yes, Reverend.
he was the kind of a person who was my window
Okay.
beyond Bafut.
Wow.
He would take me, and we would, anywhere he went, like to womb.
With that, with those the
With
father's
the Volks-
cars.
Yeah, the father's car.
Oh, was it
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen?
Yes, the
Oh.
father's car was Volkswagen at
Yes.
the time. So he would drive me and would go there. We went to St. Martin's in Womb
Okay.
during Holy Week and spent a night there.
Okay.
Father Patrick Losha was in Womb at the time.
Yes.
He was visiting him,
Okay.
and that afternoon when we arrived, before we went there, I was sitting in the compound in the morning, and he came in and said and told my mother that he was going to take me to Womb.
Okay.
And
What did your mother say?
my mother said yes, go. And he said get into the car. So I got into the car. Of course, I didn't have any shoes.
Oh my God.
I got into the car, and I had these trousers, these shorts
Yes.
that were torn. You had windows in the back pocket, because sometimes I used to stand in the line and children would pinch me.
Oh God. You still remember vividly?
Yeah. So he took me,
Yeah.
and I had a shirt too that was torn in the armpits. So he said, get into the car, and I got in.
Okay.
So we drove up to Mancon Town, Commercial Avenue Main Market,
Yes.
parked the car, and then as we were entering the market, he removed 200 francs
Okay.
and said, take this, let's see what we will buy in here.
He gave it to you.
Yes, so we got in. As soon as we entered the main market, we made a left turn, and then we went into that place they used to call Okrika Line.
Okay.
And we looked, and so he picked these shorts. The price, I think it was something like about 50 francs or so.
Wow.
He said, okay, pay. I paid. They gave me. Then he picked the shirt. So now I still had about 110 francs left.
Okay.
So he turned around. We went to the Njanga area. He bought a big wrapping of crayfish.
Okay.
In our house, we used to eat what they call Njanja Moto Dino Cover Eye.
Oh really?
Because the crayfish was the high quality one.
Okay. So he bought that too.
Yeah, so he bought that with the change that I
Exactly.
had. Then he turned around and said, pull those pants out there and wear the other ones. So I quickly pulled the other one there in all that crowd there.
Can you imagine?
And I
And
put,
were people
of course, people are standing there.
and looking at you?
Yes.
Okay.
Just put,
But it was not your problem.
no underwear. You have underwears. Underwears were luxuries.
Exactly.
So I just pulled it off and I put on my new shirt
And you trouble.
and I dumped the other one in that trash there.
Oh my God.
And we drove to Womb.
Okay.
So when I got back home the next day, my mother and grandmother, they were surprised. They said, when my grandmother came back, she said, why did you allow him go with those type of things?
Exactly, with father.
Yeah. I came back
With
a
you?
changed person. In whom I was taken to a hotel. You know,
Really?
we ate in a hotel. That's the first time I've seen.
That you ate in a hotel?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Where did father, was there a parish there, by the way?
Yeah, there was a parish there, but
Okay.
Father Patrick just wanted to show around, so probably didn't want to have traditional lunch in the parish. So we
Exactly.
went to
He
this
was a
place.
white man.
No, it wasn't a white. It was
Oh.
Patrick Losha. It's from Banso.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
Interesting.
we went.
Okay.
We went and visited the lake,
Okay.
then the general hospital. Then on our way back from the hospital, we stopped at this place that they call the hotel, and they brought rice
Rice and what? Just rice?
and stew.
Wow. Well cooked.
And you know how rice was in Cameroon.
Yeah, it was a luxury.
Yeah, so I ate mine savagely.
And what did father say?
And Father Kofon is watching.
Good.
When I finished the last grain,
Yes.
he went to his plate and took his and slided it over.
To you to continue.
I did justice to it again. And then there was a glass of Coca-Cola. I drank it all down, and he looked at Father Patrick Losha and made a comment and said, "These children have rubber stomachs."
Because was Egebel, yeah?
Yeah.
That's a sense of language.
Yeah, I said these children have
Rubber stomach.
rubber
So it's
stomach.
elastic.
Yeah. But there's one thing he did for me, that shows how down to earth of a person he was. I had jiggers.
Okay.
And he said you couldn't serve mass without jiggers. So I knew I was disqualified.
Okay.
But one day he came and he called me. We were sitting in front of the parish directory, and he pulled out every one jigger from my foot.
Wow. Can you imagine? So he was a doctor.
Yes, and then washed my feet and told me, "I don't want to see jiggers on this foot anymore." And that was the last time I ever had jiggers.
Interesting. So when did you get your first pair of shoes?
My first pair of shoes,
Do you remember?
yes, well, I had a pair of shoes when I was very young,
Yes.
which my father bought. That was before he died.
Okay.
But after he died, I never got a pair of shoes. The first pair of shoes I wore was in class 6 in primary school, but they were not my shoes.
Okay.
I was playing in the school band,
I see.
and we had to play in the youth day. The condition was you have to have white canvas.
Yes.
And I did not have white canvas. But on the other hand, I could play the drums very well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I had a friend, Chia, from Ginicom. He was in the he was in the orphanage with the Reverend Sisters.
Okay.
Sajoka was not in place at the time, but he was staying in the convent.
Okay.
So he too used to serve mass. So we were very good friends.
Yes.
And he was 3 classes behind me.
Wow.
So he looked at the situation and said, "No, you know how to play the drum. There's nobody, but so I will lend you my shoes."
And he did.
He did.
Okay. And you were able to
So
play.
we went down to youth day, and people said, "How is he going to come?" And so the people who wanted to play the drums, but they couldn't have the skill,
Yes.
they were now saying, "Okay, we'll see how he will go and play." When that day reaches, we will play.
Okay.
And when the band was playing and coming, people were more attracted to
Yes.
see what I had on my feet.
Oh, and they saw the white canvas.
Canvas, they were my friends on. The next day, they were asking me in school, "Where are your shoes that you wore yesterday?"
What did you tell them? You
I
said,
didn't
well,
say anything.
wow, interesting.
But I owned my real pairs of shoes when I was going to secondary school because the prospectus required that you had to
go
buy
to mountain.
shoes. Yes. But then there was another Reverend Sister, Sister Regina.
Yes.
She, before she died, she was in the she was a cook for Bishop Awa.
Okay.
She gave me a pair of shoes.
Oh.
The nuns' shoes.
Yeah.
They had some shoes that looked like men's shoes.
Yeah.
I was in class 7 at the time.
Okay.
So that was another
That
pair
was
of
the
shoes.
first-
So I would say I owned those because she never took them back.
Oh my God. So, Mrs. Florence, did you have the same experience with primary school, difficulty with school fees, and
No,
so everything
No.
went smoothly for you?
everything was fine.
Oh wow, Interesting.
Everything was fine.
Are there any anecdotes you remember about your primary school days? Anecdotes about which relationship with a teacher or students?
Actually, my parents were very strict.
Okay.
To a point where if you were brought home,
Yes.
it was her and the school against you.
Can you imagine? She will not support you.
So we didn't have that opportunity. We didn't have that chance to fall into crimes, which is the same principle I've applied to my kids today.
That's very good.
It made life, at the time we thought life was tough,
Yes.
but when you really look at it, as a widow,
Yes.
she didn't want to get into trouble, and she did not want us to get into problems.
Wow.
So she was a very strict woman, and she remains my model.
Okay.
Yes, she
I'm
was.
so happy to hear that.
She will.
That you have a model. We need to have models.
Yes, she was very strict, and most principals and headmasters and teachers knew her because she was a designer by profession.
Wow.
And she did secretaryship, so she worked in most of the firms.
Yes.
Then when they were selling shares in the main market, she was lucky to be one of them.
Oh.
Late Mr. Nanga, as she narrated to us.
Yes.
While working in CCC, she would design dresses in the evening.
Okay. Wow.
And then the hawkers would sell.
Yes.
And then at the end of the month, she realized she was making more than her salary.
Can you imagine?
And she happened to have been raised by the Fono Baliga, whose wife did community development. So there was a lot that she learned growing up.
Wow.
My aunt studied in Britain. Late Auntie Cecilia Galabe. She studied a whole lot of stuff.
Wow. So
they ran the community development in Bamenda.
Wow.
And so that was the person who raised my mom.
Oh.
So we grew up, benefiting from those
experiences.
Exactly. So life wasn't really tough, and she had a lot of support system, even from neighbors.
Yes.
Like the Abams.
Okay.
Mr. Abam came, you come to the house and say, Lucy, if there's any problem, let me know. But she never really went anywhere.
Okay. She solved her problems.
Yes, all her problems were solved. So we had the support system.
Wow.
And thank God we listened to her.
I'm so impressed about
that.
So let's go to secondary school. You moved to Mamfe. How did you do that from Bamenda? By bicycle?
By Land Rover.
Oh, wow.
We entered a Land Rover.
Okay.
And the Land Rover
Thank you.
Was behind. The back of the Land Rover, you had chairs, benches on both sides.
On both sides.
Yes. And this one that I boarded had a double cabin, meaning the driver, and then they had another
for some passengers
and
before
the back. I happened to have been put in that cabin after the driver because I was so small, so they could easily squeeze me into.
By the way,
I was about 11 years.
Oh my God, you were very young going to secondary school. Interesting.
And the journey took off, and that was the first time I was leaving Bamenda to go and stay somewhere on my own.
Wow.
So we passed through Bali. I could recognize Bali because I had been there before with Brother Kofon on a visit.
Exactly.
Where he took me to show me the airport.
Okay.
And then
so the airport was functional then?
It was functional because when we went there, the day he took me to go visit at the airport, when we went, the plane was just taking off.
Wow.
So I saw a plane for the first time in an airport.
Wow. That was a Bali airport?
Bali airport.
Can you imagine? Impressive.
So I went down to Mamfe.
You never knew you would take a plane one day?
No, that was far-fetched.
God is great.
So we arrived in Mamfe. It was a Wednesday.
That you left?
Because in those days you could only travel to Mamfe 3 days a week.
Why?
Monday, because the road, Bamenda Mamfe was what you call a one-way.
Can you imagine?
So Mondays is go down, Tuesday is come up, Wednesday you go down, Thursday you come up, Friday you go down, Saturday you come up, Sunday no travel. That's how it was designed.
So it was one way.
Yes, one way.
Interesting.
So it was a Wednesday that I left. And then when we arrived at the park, it would be at about 6 o'clock in the evening. It was so hot. I've never experienced that type of heat in my life.
Oh my God.
And then there was a lot of noise.
Oh.
I saw a very big... You're coming from Bafut where you hardly hear noise. So you find a lot of people, a lot of cars. The ones that are coming from Kumba, the one from Ekok.
Exactly.
So it's a very crowded area. And I'm standing there. I still don't know my whereabouts.
Yes.
Then I saw a man that I had known in Bafut who used to visit us in the house.
Coincidentally.
Yes, and I walked up to him and greeted him.
Okay.
He recognized me immediately and he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I've come here to go to grammar school." He said, "When did you come?" I said, "I'm just arriving." He said, "Where is your box?" I said, "That is my box there." So he asked me, "So where are you going?" I said, "That's my box."
Oh my God, you were all alone. Can you imagine?
So wherever he was going, that mission ended. So he called a truck.
Wow.
A truck boy.
Yes.
The boy came and said, pick that back, the box.
Okay.
It's this portmanteau.
What was inside the box, if I may ask?
It was just my, whatever was my prospectus.
So
There was a bed sheet,
okay,
a mosquito net, then 2 white shirts,
wow,
2 khaki trousers, and 2 navy blue trousers.
Wow.
Then a pair of sandals and a pair of brown shoes. The brown shoes the Reverend Sister
Gave you?
Yes.
How did you struggle to get the rest?
To do what?
To get the rest to buy the other things. You know, they were expensive, I think. Or the blanket.
I had some family support.
Oh, that's good.
Some of my uncles and all of them.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, they did that. Well, of course, part of the reason why some of my uncles were a little bit reluctant was because they said they did not see any future in secondary school. No, education in general.
Can you imagine?
But one of my maternal uncles, who is late now, who happened to have been in teachers training college, was able to convince
them,
the other ones, and then they joined efforts to help me out.
I'm so happy they did.
Yeah. But this man now, he was a teacher in primary school. Okay. St. Joseph's Manveta Primary School.
I see.
So he took my box and then we went to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And that day I slept on the floor.
Wow. They're not boarding, they're not dormitories?
No, the school it was a day school.
Oh, okay.
So when I got there, he had a 1-bedroom.
Okay.
So in the parlor, there was just a table and 2 chairs. The table was leaned against the wall like this.
Yes.
And then you have a chair, 2 chairs here like this.
I see.
Where he would sit and write his lessons of notes. He was not married.
Okay.
So that day I slept on the floor. And then he came back 3 days. I slept on the floor for about 3-4 days. And then he came one day and then he took me and we went out and he got a bed.
Okay.
And came and then helped me to mount that bed with my mosquito net. And that became my home for 3 years.
Oh,
so I lived with him for the first 3 years in school until he was transferred to Kumba.
Wow.
Fortunately, at the time he was transferred, they had the first set of dormitories.
Oh, okay.
And I moved in there.
Wow, so he was extremely generous to you.
Yes, he was.
You didn't ask from your family, why did you send him? He just...
No.
Wow. I mean, so where is he from now?
He's late.
He's so rest in peace for him.
Unfortunately, when he died, I was never connected with him. However,
yes.
When he got married,
yes,
and he was transferred to Kumba, the wife was expecting.
I see.
But before he could deliver, they were gone. So I never saw the wife anymore and did not see the child.
Oh.
But I kept on telling my wife the story and how. So one day I said, "But this boy has to be somewhere. He cannot just be missing like that."
Exactly.
So this man is a cousin to Father Michael Niba.
Okay.
So I said, Father Michael has to know where
Exactly.
he is. So I called Father Michael up and I said, where is this child? He said, no, the child is in St. Augustine.
I see.
So my wife, we arranged and she sent school fees through Father Michael.
Wow.
You know, the money got to St. Augustine
Yes.
when this child was driven out for school.
For school fees.
Yes.
Can you imagine? It came at the right
From
time.
what we were told, he had packed his things waiting to go. And then the principal said they came and called him. They said, you have your school fees here, go back to class.
What a confidential.
But that's how I was able to put closure to that family. Then my wife went home and then went and looked for him. And then gave him some money and then some things to start life on his own. He's somewhere in Texas there.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That's quite impressive. I'm so impressed about your story. So 3 years in Mamfe. With
Mr. Anacletus.
Anacletus. And then the dormitories were
right. Then I went in there. I did 7 years in Mamfe.
Wow.
My secondary school and high school were all in Mamfe.
And you completed with distinction.
I wouldn't call it distinction. I was just an average student.
I see. All of Mrs. Florence, how was the secondary school education? You went to St. Beats, you said?
I went to St. Beats.
Who was the principal at the time?
Father.
Do you remember?
Father John Ambe.
Oh, don't tell me. Who was rector of Bambwe?
No, actually, Father John Ambe had recommended me because I had admission in Lord's as day student. This was in the early 80s.
So in the early 80s, there was
day students. So Father John Bintum said, no, me going for a day student, he doesn't encourage it. We live below Lord's, Our Lady of Lord's.
Can you imagine?
So he called Father John and said they need to send me to St. Beats in a boarding school. So that's why I went to St. Beats.
Wow.
We're family friends with Father John and
yes.
Father John Bintum, and most of the priests at that time.
Yes.
So this
What
was the
year
two
was
priests
that?
that
Do you remember
assisted
the
me.
year?
83.
83.
And Father Fonte was the principal for a couple of weeks and then left. Then we had Father Ndiche came in and then left. Then we had Mr. Awa left, and then Mr. Nde, Pandi. Yes, so St. Beats was quite interesting.
Ivan Ndiche.
Right.
Father Ivan Ndiche.
Father Ivan. Yes.
Interesting.
So that was my life in St. Beats.
Yes.
But the percentages wasn't good. Some of us didn't make it. So I came back to Nacho, where I had my ordinary level. Then I went to Nigeria to do hotel management.
How did you find yourself in Nigeria? Where did that idea come?
I was good we were good in cooking because my mother was raised by the aunt who was working with community development. Traveled, learned a lot of things. So we grew up making cakes, secondary school, primary school. So I had that interest, but she wanted me to be a designer because she was a designer. I used to work with her in the store, but did not really develop much interest in designing. So I went to Nigeria and I did an associate in hotel management. I had a cousin.
Yes, who was there?
Who got admission, and that's how I went to Nigeria.
Can you tell me the experience you had? Did you fly? Did you go by road, by sea?
I flew. I flew the first time going to Nigeria, and I flew most of the trips.
Wow!
And some trips I went with the Consul General, late Mr. Tamak Martin. He was a family friend, so he would take me to Nigeria by boat. And sometimes I only went by boat when he was traveling. But most of the time I went by air.
From Bali?
From Douala. I had my uncle in Douala, Mr. Galabe.
How were the planes in those days?
They were
normal like this one of today.
They are normal, but they were not luxurious. But Nigeria was far developed at that time.
Exactly.
We had Nigerian Airways that would fly 30 minutes from Douala to Calabar.
Wow.
And they flew Lagos and they also flew Port Harcourt. So I flew most of the semesters to Nigeria.
Wow.
Life was a lot easier because when I left, my uncle sent me to go do, Mr. Galabe sent me to the embassy, to the consulate,
yes,
to go have a consular card.
Okay.
So when I got there, the consul said that, you said your Mr. Galabe is your uncle, so why are you bearing Ayafo? I said, my father is Ayafo, my mother is Galabe.
Okay.
He said, do you know Martin Chumbom? I said, yes, that's my brother. So he said, when I came, schools were over.
Yes.
It was far gone, so I had to go back home and then come back for the next semester.
I see.
So he asked how I was going. I said, I have to go by public transport or by air. I asked if I had money. I said, yes. But I didn't know my orientation. I didn't know my way around. So, but he asked one of the drivers to take me to the borders.
Wow.
That's how secured
from where?
From Calabar to Ekok.
Can you imagine how long the distance is?
I was where I met another family, a family friend, Mr. Tanga.
Okay.
So they then put me in another car to go back to Bamenda. So that's how I knew the Bamenda Ekok route.
Wow.
He was the chief of custom at the time.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
and
great.
the wife did seamstressing with my mom.
I see.
So it was a well-known family. So.
Wow.
So it was just God's design somehow.
You went abroad so early.
Yeah.
Nigeria was abroad in those days.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for that. So, Reverend Niba, you were in Mamfe, you did well, you completed. What happened next when you had the advanced level?
Well, I want to complete that section at least giving some credit.
Okay.
Because I am who I am today.
Yes.
Because of the formation that I received in grammar school Mamfe.
Okay.
Knowing that it was a government school.
Yes.
There are no dormitories. It's about a mile away from town where we were living.
Yes.
And coming. And this is the first time that some of us are out there.
Exactly.
So to have gone through that required a sense of discipline, which is normally received at that tender age in a boarding school, which we did not. We were not opportune to have. So it has to be the formators, those teachers, for that short space of time that we were in contact.
Yes.
They created an impact.
Wow.
From the principal who admitted me, Mr. Akware.
Okay.
I remember he would come and say, your parents have suffered a lot to send you here. You take your school serious. Mr. Wambo,
okay.
Who is late, was the second principal of the school.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Wambo, I remember when I tried to escape from class and he followed me up until I ran through a window and he got me and punished me. So he was so strict and stern.
Yes.
That the students nicknamed him Lokuram.
Which means?
Current. He met you on the way.
Lokuram.
Yeah, Lokuram.
In French.
Yes. And if he's walking down the corridor and you are there when you are not, if he meant kicking you, I remember he kicked this one student, saying you are obstructing traffic in the corridors. And that left him a stain on his on his pants.
Wow.
Then you had people like Mr. Ngwahans. That was the junior brother of this man who wrote the geography book, A Geography of Cameroon by J. Ngwa, who was the discipline master. Okay. He single-handedly molded our lives.
Wow.
Now you talk about Mr. Atogo Enyi, who was the third principal. He too is of late now. But these are people who had fatherly love. Then the classroom teachers, Pandenge, who is of late too. People like the Nkwatos, the Nkwalas, who were teaching us physics and chemistry. Those were new subjects that we were hearing. But they helped us to develop an interest in science.
Wow.
These people taught us science, and we graduated in Form 5 without touching a test tube.
Can you imagine?
But we were able to pass it.
Exactly.
So I give credit to those people wherever they are.
I'm so very, very impressed that you remember them, Mr. Anakletus and the others. I'm very, very impressed.
To your question, when I left Mamfe, I went back and I was teaching in primary school in Bafut.
Oh, you got a job immediately?
Yes.
Interesting.
While
you were in Nigeria, he was going to Bafut.
Yeah. The manager of primary schools in Memphis and St. Joseph's.
Yes.
Father Martin Kima.
Oh, Martin Kima, Monsignor now.
Yes, he actually wanted me to come back to Memphis.
And do what? And
to come and teach there. Mr. Togo wanted me to come and work in the laboratory in Memphis.
Wow.
In the school.
Yes.
But I decided no, I was fine with just staying in Bafut and teaching in Bafut.
Okay.
In the course of Father
Martin.
No, Father Morgan, who is a Mill Hill missionary, was a parish priest.
Yes.
And then Father Joseph Wiraba, who is a Kumbo diocese now.
Yes.
Was the manager of schools. So I was teaching under them.
Okay.
Then Father Cockman came.
I see.
After Morgan and Wiraba left.
Yeah.
Father Cockman came. So I continued teaching under him.
Oh, you're teaching, if I may ask?
I was teaching class 4.
Oh, wow. Everything, all the subjects?
All the subjects. I had 80 students. I was teaching class 4.
Okay.
And then I was also teaching music in the school.
Oh, wow.
Then class 6.
Yes.
I taught class 6. And then I was teaching English comprehension to the children in class 7 who were preparing for common entrance. Wow. Of course, there was a time when they started introducing French in primary school, and I taught French.
Oh, did you? Had you learned French before?
I had a U in French.
Oh, really? But you could at least.
Well, I was given an assignment to teach French in primary school. Since you came from bilingual grammar school, the assumption was that you knew French.
So it was a challenge for you.
Well, yeah, and you, what French are you teaching? Okay, I'm crayon. Yeah. So you saw, and that's why that life was going.
Wow.
But for the Cockman, at the end of the school year, one day I came to Mass, and when I came up for communion, he said, "See me after Mass."
Wow.
And then when I came, he told me, "I'm going to send you to Mbekunyam as a catechist."
Interesting.
And I came home and I told my mother. She wasn't very happy with. My grandmother was not very happy with the.
Why?
She said, "With all the amount of knowledge you have acquired,
exactly.
They want you to go and be a catechist." You know, a catechist in those days was looked upon as that person. It doesn't have to be an educated person.
That's
it's
true.
Just somebody who
has nothing to do.
Yeah. So with all what you have studied,
can you imagine?
They want to take you out of the classroom to be a catechist. My mother quickly intervened and said, "If you do not go, who is going to go?"
Wow.
See, I was looking for support not to go.
Yes. And then
which I was getting from my grandmother.
Exactly.
But my mother asked that question and that turned around the whole table.
And you went?
And the next day I went back and I told Father, yes, I would go.
Wow.
It was a decision on the part of the priest that many people in Bafut did not welcome.
Okay.
Because at the time I had started a youth choir.
I see.
And I told you we have 21 outstations. Yeah, so some of the parishes, they had choir, some of the mission stations, they had choirs.
Yeah.
So during festivals, when they came into church, like Feast of Assumption, or Christmas or Easter, where they had one big mass, this choir will sing this part, this one will sing this one, this one will sing this one. And I looked at it and I said, it doesn't make any sense. There should be a common song.
Exactly.
So I composed a mass in Bafut.
Can you imagine?
So we then started what we call the Bafut Catholic Choirs Association.
Where did you learn how to compose masses before we continue? Did you learn from a priest or it's just a gift, natural gift?
If you want me to rewind the clock,
please.
I used to dodge away from singing in primary school.
Okay.
And one day when I rang the bell, because I was a school timekeeper, I rang the bell and as they were going, I was dodging and going away. So I'm down on this track. I didn't take the main road, so I'm down on this bush track. And then I saw this one bar coming up.
Okay.
who was coming. He had his bamboo and his calabash of wine.
Okay.
So I'm coming head on with him. So I stepped out of the path for him to pass. But he came as if he was passing, and then he just grabbed my hand.
Oh, really?
Without talking, and then he's just pulling me, and I'm following.
Can you imagine? Did you know him?
I didn't know him. He just pulled me up. I'm just following. My hand is warm. My arm is warm in his hand, and I'm just following. So he went straight to the headmaster's office.
I handed you.
And said, "Teacher, I found him running away from school, so I brought him back."
Oh my God, what did the teacher do?
The headmaster just looked at me and said, "Go back to the singing room." So I went.
Okay.
That's how I started developing interest in singing.
You say you never done.
Then with that interest,
Yes.
Monsignor Sokika, then Father Sokika at the time, on major feasts of the church, he always sang the gospel.
Oh, wow.
So that now started intriguing me to pay attention to him.
Okay.
And I can say that I do chant the gospel, but a lot of that melody, I stole it from him at that very early.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So now when I go to Mamfe,
Yes.
I met Bishop Father Eswa, who
Cornelius Eswa.
who
Wow.
recruited me into the youth club, and then started the Catholic Youth Club. The Catholic Youth Club then evolved and had a Catholic Youth Choir.
Wow.
Meanwhile, in school,
Yes.
I was playing xylophones in the cultural club,
That's true.
and because I had that skill, the teacher, Mr. Nupa Simplis, who is late, who was directing the school choir, recruited me now to play xylophones for the choir.
Wow.
And then from there now, I developed an interest more again in singing.
Exactly.
But the person who actually taught me how to compose music was Henry Asom Achingale.
Wow.
He too is late now.
Who was him?
He was a worker.
Okay.
He comes from Bangwa area. He was a worker with the community development, an accountant with the community development.
Wow.
But he later on became a member of the youth choir, the Catholic Youth Choir, which then evolved into the Mamfe Youth Choir.
Okay.
So we were singing together. He composed a lot of the songs. So most of the songs that he composed, I was a part of him, so I would sit down with him. There's even one song called Consider Your Ways, that it was a joint composition we did together. And so that's how I started doing that. So it's that skill that I brought back now to Bafut.
I heard that song.
Yes.
Very famous.
Yeah. So it is that skill that I brought back to Bafut.
Wow.
And then we said, okay, we're going to have this Catholic Choirs Association. The idea was you teach a common mass and songs to all the groups.
Yeah.
So with that, every week we were on rotations. The various choir masters were on rotation, teaching the same song to all of the groups. So as that was at the climax going on, that's when Father said, "You go." And so a lot of people in Bafut did not like that idea because they felt the whole thing was going to collapse.
So when you left, it collapsed?
Well, it never really collapsed.
Okay, somebody...
No, if you do things well,
yes,
and you don't hide
the
things,
exactly,
all you need is an idea to share with people. Then you don't have to be worried that when you are gone, it's going to collapse. And that's why it did not collapse.
Wow, I'm so impressed.
Yeah. But he sent me to Mbekunya.
Wow.
It's about 20 to 25 miles
from Bafut.
Without a vehicle. Vehicles don't go there.
So you trekked there?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You trek there, and then as a catechist, you are asked to come back. You have to come back to the main parish.
Yes.
Once every month.
To give an account.
Not to give an account. You come for some spiritual refreshment, and then you also participate in First Friday devotions. Father Kochman woman was very particular in First Friday devotions and adoration of the Eucharist.
You guys had serious formation.
Yeah,
just
so
like in the
we always
seminary.
had to come back to that.
And he built a church there.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Where did that inspiration come and how did it happen? In a place where no car can arrive.
Well, when I went down there, and I remember with all the grumbling in Bafut,
That you had left.
yes, the stories reached me that he said he knew why he was sending me there, and it will not be long they will see the results.
Good.
But he never gave me any directives on it. On
what to do.
Yes, he just said, "I want you to go and be a catechist." So when I got down to Mbekunia, I had passed through Mundum. Mundum had a church house.
Okay.
I passed through Mbamba. Mbamba had a church house. Shison had a church house.
Okay.
So I knew Nebeba had a church house. There was a church house too in Alori that was under construction. Okay. So I knew that Mbekunia, we've heard about it all these years. So I'm going to see a very big church house. Exactly. When I got there, there was nothing. There was plain land.
So where did you sleep?
The only place where that is supposed to have a church house was a room, a house.
Yes.
A little house, 3 rooms. You enter like this, then you have a room here and a room here. That's it.
Okay.
And that's where when the priest comes, he stays. All right.
No.
Then below was a school.
Okay.
And they said, this is the mission.
So no doors. There were no doors there.
There was.
Or just a.
No, some shutter just like this in that one. That was it.
Can you imagine?
There's no hinge. There's no lock. There's nothing. That's where I stayed. And then about 3 or 4 feet at the end of that edge was a road.
Okay.
And you sleep and you hear people walk around. People from Nigeria, these traders who take the track roads, they come in there. I bought my first radio cassette from one of them who used to come. They'll come and stay in the house with me.
By the way, you were still a single, right?
Yes.
You were still single?
I was about 22 at the time.
Okay. We'll come to that. Interesting.
So there is no. So I now. This was August when I arrived there.
Yes.
And I'm asking, so how do you begin? News had gone through the whole village that a new catechist had come. So that Sunday, so where are we going to have prayer service? So I went into one of the classrooms and cleaned it up.
Okay.
And that's where we had our first prayer service.
Would you let?
And then we took up a collection which was about 95 francs. And the church treasurer told me that the number of people that you have seen and this amount of money is because you are new here. Otherwise, you will not find anybody. So you are lucky.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it. What is 95 francs?
Exactly.
So the next Sunday, she was right. The next Sunday, I didn't see that many people.
Okay.
So we had to find a strategy now how we are going to mobilize these people. So I had to go back into what they did in the early church.
Wow.
No centralized services. So I started going into the quarters.
Okay.
And then we had people called head Christians in each of those quarters.
Okay.
So on Monday, I would be at Upper Mbekunia in the evening. Then I would stay the night there. The next day, I would then go to Abaango. Then from Abaango, I'll go to Mwala. So by the time the week is over, I'm back again into
the main station.
Yes. I did that during the holidays.
On foot?
Yes.
Wow.
And when school was, during the school times, I would go to school and then teach. Then in the evening, I will go and then come back.
So you taught doctrine?
No, I was teaching full-time classroom teacher.
Okay.
And taught doctrine too as well.
Interesting. In Bekunia?
In Bekunia. Attendance was very poor.
Okay.
We found out that the reason was that they couldn't have money.
Okay.
So we started collecting school fees.
I see.
In kind.
Okay.
If you went up to Oshie to sell groundnuts, it was about 10 cups for 100 francs, 8 cups of rice for 100.
Yes.
So I was buying 14 cups of groundnuts for 100 and 12 cups of rice for 100 at the parish. So you come,
You
down,
exchange.
and then we take note of that. Okay, your child's school fees is how much. So you pay it in either granules or what you could produce. Those who could not produce either granules or rice, we then ask them now to carry it. Okay. So we'll pile it in sacks, then they carry now to the nearest motorable place. Then I check out their collection cards.
Yes.
And then pay their children's fees if they had.
Wow.
Then father now comes and picks it up. But when I suggested to father, he didn't really buy the idea until
he saw the effect.
when he came and then he came. Now he used to come and sell those things in Bafood, and at some time I think he contracted with a cooperative and then he was supplying things with a cooperative.
That was a wonderful initiative.
Now he comes back and says, you need to buy, we are building a church.
Wow.
And I am going to send workers down there. So what are the workers going to do?
Okay.
So now I went back into those my village areas and I explained to them the necessity of a church.
Yes.
So they carrying sand. Cement was coming from Bamenda.
Okay.
We'll bring down cement to O'Shea, some to Okomanjang area.
Okay.
They will break up the backs.
So then you can carry.
Then you just tie it very quickly so that air doesn't get into. Sometimes in small bags. And then they bring it down and lump them up. So we built up a church.
Can you imagine?
How
long did it take?
It took 2.5 years to build the church.
Wow.
I was there for a year before we started the church.
Okay.
Then 2.5 years because I was in Becuniam for 3.5 years.
Okay.
The day they put the roof.
Yes.
And father said Mass there that Easter when he came home, he called me out.
He sent you elsewhere.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. What's the name of the, is it a parish now?
It's not a parish.
It's still an outstation.
It's still an outstation.
So it's the one, it's called Mbekunyam.
Mbekunyam was St. Michael's.
When I go back to Cameroon next, I don't know when I'm going to visit that place.
My wife later on
Yes.
had a conversation with Bishop Agapitus when he was auxiliary bishop.
Okay.
And he said, no, I did not know about this story.
Can you imagine? It's not documented.
Yeah, so he went back there and decided to put up a story building there, I believe.
Oh, wow.
He said, no. He said, I have a grant, I have to put up a building there.
Okay.
Father Kaufman was developing that place because he said that in his mind, that place would be a parish one day. And that if he retires, he's going to go there.
And spend the rest of his life.
And interestingly, he retired there.
Wow.
In the sense that he went and said Mass there.
Okay.
And then left from there. When he finished climbing the hill out of that parish that morning, he died.
Wow. So he died where?
Bekonia.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
And was he buried there?
No, he was buried in Bafood. But
Okay.
the place has been erected now. People actually do pilgrimage there.
That's quite impressive. I'm so impressed. Thank you so much. So while he was studying, you were in Nigeria. You used to come back from time to time. So when did you meet for the first time?
In the United States.
Before we come to the United States. So you finished in Mbekunya. Where were you sent to?
No, I didn't. When I left Mbekunya, I came to the United States.
Good. Let's go through. What happened? How did it happen? How did it happen?
I had actually applied to come to the United States while I was still in Manve.
Okay.
That was in 79.
Wow.
And I got admission to study soil science in the College of Agriculture in the University of Minnesota.
Wow.
My admission, by my I-20 and admission letter, I was supposed to start classes in January 1980. And I finished in 79. Of course, I didn't have, I don't know, but I knew I was writing an application to go, but if you ask me how I was going to go, I did not know how I was going to go. So I had the admission letter, and I went and met my friend at Chingale, and I said, can you help me get a passport?
What did Chingale say? What do you want to do with the passport?
So Chingale went to the immigration office and then came back and gave me a list of things that I need to get. And then I think on it, it was something like about 240,000 repatriation fee. I looked at that money and I said, this guy is joking.
Oh my God! So what was him again? Was he a teacher?
No, he was just a friend that I met at the Catholic Youth Club, and he was a civil servant with the community development. Was an accountant with community development.
Happens to be my in-law.
Oh, seriously? But did you know that?
No, I did not.
Oh my God! What a coincidence! So how did you get the passport again?
No, we never got that passport in that route. So that was the end. But I never gave up because January is coming.
Yes.
And I realized I'm not going anywhere. So I wrote back to the school.
Okay.
And I said, I'm having difficulties. Can you renew my I-20?
And they did.
And they kept on renewing my I-20 for 5 years.
Wow. Can you imagine? Until the 5th year.
Until the 5th year when I managed to get a passport, thanks to Engineer Muya,
okay,
who intervened with all of the bureaucracy that is in there. He intervened and I was able to get a passport.
Oh my God.
And then my uncle, who is of late now, secured a ticket for me, and that's how I got here.
Oh my God.
March 20.
Your uncle?
Joseph Ayama.
Oh, may so is this.
And I got into the United States.
So you got the passport, went to the embassy. How was the in those days? Was it so difficult?
The most difficult thing was getting a passport.
Oh, really?
Because when I showed up at the embassy for a visa,
yes,
I came in with my I-20 and the passport, and I gave them.
Yes.
It was in the morning.
Okay.
And they said there's a fee, 7,000 francs.
Oh my God, so cheap.
I gave the 7,000, and the lady asked me to come back at 2 o'clock. And when I came,
yes,
I was given my
passport
with the visa in it, and then a sealed letter that had the inscription "Do not open until the port of entry in the United States."
Wow.
And that's
how you got here.
Was a very simple process.
So, Mrs. Florence, how did you get here? Was it a simple process?
I would think so.
As they were in Niba?
I came back. I was in Hilton.
Okay. Oh wow, in Yaoundé.
Yes, Hilton had just been erected, so I was in Hilton for almost a year.
Okay.
But I didn't like working in Hilton as a woman.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. I had my own impressions about the hotel.
Okay.
And the life that I observed working there, I didn't think that was where I belong.
Okay.
So I told my brother that I would not want to work there, Mr. Martin Chungo, at the time.
I see.
I told him I would not want to work in a hotel.
Yes.
He said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want to do some trade."
Good.
So I went to Nigeria, bought materials.
Okay.
He gave me some capital, my mother gave some.
Yeah.
So I went to Nigeria because I sew. So I designed bed sheets with the borders, the facing with lace material.
Yes.
And I had people who went to France, Britain, they would buy me the lace material and buttons. Okay. So I designed them and I would sell a sheet for 50,000, 40,000, and that's how I generated some money. And after a while, I told my brother, you know what, I want to come to school in America.
Yes. Was he here already?
No, he was director of cabinet at the prime ministry at the time.
Okay.
Honorable Chumwa Martin.
Wow.
Now UN ambassador in Congo.
Wow.
So he said, so what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to ask my sister to send an I-20. So my sister, yes, Mrs. Guanyama, and the husband, Dr. Guanyama, they sent me an I-20. So
you went to the
I took it to my brother, and one evening, I wasn't really staying with him. I was staying with my maternal uncle.
Yes.
But I was always by him. I was staying with my maternal uncle, but always by my paternal cousin. Yes. So I came to him in the evening, and he said, "Okay, bring that form, let's see." That weekend I was spending it with him. So he filled the form, and I quite remember when they talk about sponsor, he said family.
Yes.
That's what he filled. So he called the embassy. I went to the embassy, made the appointment, and that's how I got a visa. Wow. I never really struggled. And my passport was made by my uncle, who was a retired custom at the time. Okay. Pa James Buma, who is still alive.
I see.
In Douala. So he made my passport. So I really didn't go through some tough times. Okay. I really had a good support system. Okay. So I came here as an international student.
Yes.
And 1 year after my mom passed away.
Yeah, Mom.
So I was working and going to school and living with my older sister and her husband. And after a year and a half, I met him. And that's how I got married.
Where did you meet him? Here in Chicago?
Actually, he's senior in school. He's big.
Okay.
Called Mr. Tamanji Carr, now Dr. Tamanji Carr. When he came to Cameroon, he said he went to the seminary and he was asked to come and marry in my mother's house.
Okay.
Then my mother has some
very well-trained girls.
So when he came, I was in Yaoundé.
Okay.
My junior sister didn't grow up with us. She was raised in Balikouma from the age of 3. So I was only one at the time.
Okay.
And my older sister was already here. So he came and I was in Yaoundé. He came back and then he fell in love with another woman. And so sent my husband that, look, go here.
Go and meet.
This is where you go. So he said, the woman that I was directed to,
yes,
she happens to be here.
Okay.
I'm now married. This is where you should go. So he told him. So he kept calling me. I was at my sister's house. He was in Michigan doing his PhD at the time, and I was doing my undergrad in Roosevelt University.
Wow.
So he would call me. At that time, I was doing 2 jobs and going to school full time. So I was really never home.
Exactly.
And he said he was just wondering, what kind of woman is this? She's never home.
Exactly.
And one day, he finally got me.
Okay.
He said, Michael Niba, you must have heard about me from Mr. Tamanji. I'm so and so. So I said, which Niba are you? So he told me. I said, do you know Evelyn Niba? I said, that's my cousin.
Okay.
So I told him, I took her to Nigeria. She's my friend.
Okay.
So the family, I knew the family.
Very
and
good.
I knew her junior sister went to St. Beats together.
Okay.
And also cousins of his.
Wow. So everything worked very well.
And so he just said he wanted to marry me. I said, why do you just want to marry the woman you just see? That was the interesting part.
The way you meet the guy.
He had done his feasibility
Exactly.
study.
He had done all his research.
But I had not done mine. And you don't see a man who just comes and says, I want to marry you.
Okay.
However, that's most men who met me just say they want to marry.
Yes.
I said, you just want to marry me? Is that okay? He said, well, I don't want to fool around. I don't want to lie you.
Exactly.
Let's just go to court and sign the marriage. He
Serious
says
man.
his dreams never fail him.
Okay. And he did not.
And
that's quite impressive.
so within, we dated just for a month.
Can you imagine?
And we got married. But then we agreed that we're not going to have any children until we get to know each other.
Okay. And that was expected.
But I called other family members of mine.
Yes.
And they said, but you've refused every man that has come your way. So this one that you have brought, we are not going to say anything.
Okay.
Go ahead and get married. He's from where I say Bafu.
Okay.
They said, go ahead. But I had my mother, one of my foster parents, Dr. and Mrs. Abie, in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I called them, they knew him.
Okay.
Because we were that is big, was getting married. I was also catering at that wedding. And so they did not know it was him, but they knew him.
Okay.
But I didn't know he was the one.
I see.
So, and he picked the bouquet in that wedding, right?
Yes.
Wow.
He picked the bouquet at that wedding.
In Chicago?
Yes, and their daughter picked the bouquet too at that wedding.
Wow.
And they were telling their daughter I was supposed to be the one to pick the bouquet. But when they were doing the bouquet, I wasn't in the hall.
Okay.
I was in the kitchen. So it's like it was ordained.
Yes, no, it was.
However, I had this reflection of mine.
Yes.
When I was coming to United States, my brother's wife,
yes,
Sister Stella Shaw,
okay,
so they are in Geneva.
Okay.
She gave me her wedding flower.
Wow.
Where I come from, that is very, very symbolic.
Okay. If a woman gives you her wedding
her
flower.
wedding flower, it's very, very symbolic.
Hmm.
Somehow she was very close to me. She was in Q's at that time.
Okay.
And the husband was the senior translator in the National Assembly.
Wow.
He's now the Secretary General for Interparliamentary Union.
Okay.
Yes, so I kept telling him that, you're from Bafu, but I have my brother's wife. He gave me a wedding flower. Mm-hmm. I hope, in my mind, I hope I'm not going to Bafu. and that was one of the things that really struck me.
Okay.
And So I told Mrs. Abie. Mrs. Abie said, well, Florence, if I were you, I would try it. Just try and see if it works.
Yeah.
You've been turning down everybody. You have to try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
So, honor is invitation.
Okay.
I called my aunt in Atlanta. I told her. I called my brother in Morocco. I told him. Everybody was for it. Okay. Then I have a friend, Sister Vicky.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm not used to him.
Okay.
He said, well, the love grows over time.
It grows.
Which Mrs. Abie said the same thing. And so that was, I had the support.
From the family, from your
from friends. Yes, so I thought that was really what the turning point was.
Okay. Wow.
So he paid a visit, but he was staying at a hotel.
Okay.
Not too far from where I lived.
Okay.
So we had been conversing, and from his conversations, he was a self-made man. He has struggled in life. So my relationship with him was more of the life he has lived rather than being interested in the marriage. I said, you know what? I don't want to marry you, but I want to help you.
Okay.
Because I had the network.
Oh, okay.
And I told him, I think I know a lot of people that can help you.
Okay.
But he told me he was close to graduating.
I see.
And so when he graduated, it wasn't easy for him to get a job because it was a university town.
Wow.
I knew some Congress people, and I had some network in Chicago.
Okay.
So I told him I have people who can
give you a job.
So that's how the conversation intensified.
Wow.
And she had a junior sister she was sponsoring in Canada.
Okay.
And so in the course of our conversation, I gave him an idea, and so her sister came.
Wow.
And so he continued to sponsor her in school.
Okay.
And so the relationship then became intensified. So he asked me, how long have you been in the United States? I said, 1 year. He said, you are so smart. I actually helped him to get his first job in Lansing. Because he kept applying, but he won't get they won't give him the job because he was overqualified.
Okay.
I said, no, you know you are a minority.
Yes. So
go back and book an appointment and see the director of the program.
Okay.
Tell them where you come from and tell them what their capabilities are. And so when he went, he was offered the job.
You see?
And that became the milestone in his life. And he said, boy, well, I think I was just designed for him. Because the dating period was so short.
Exactly.
It was a month. And
no, I've met people who have dated just for 1 week, 2 weeks. If it's God, it's for
if it's God's design.
God's design,
I think so.
it's God's design. God
and
is so
I
powerful.
think the marriage worked out so well.
No, I'm so impressed. Impressed.
It
We're going to go
worked
to
out
the
so
next stage of how the idea of the permanent diaconate came, Reverend Niba. But before then, I want to take you back to, you went to the States in 1970, no, 80.
To where?
To the United States. When did you?
I came here in 85.
85. So before
March
then.
25th.
Oh, March 25th. Before then, Reverend Niba, I want us to go back to Cardinal Tumi. When did you first meet this Cardinal Tumi? Because I think it's before 85, right?
Yes.
Before he was even made a bishop.
That's correct.
Can you please? I'm very interested in the encounter with Cardinal Tumi.
I think the year is 1973.
Wow.
I have just finished my first year in Manfay.
Okay.
From 1.
I see.
So I come up to town, and of course I did not have transport to go to Bafut.
Okay.
So I had my box that I was going to carry on my head and trek down to Bafut.
From Bamenda?
From Bamenda town.
Okay.
So this day I got the news was that they were going to do an execution of some armed robbers.
Okay.
One of them was called Chi and was from Mancom.
Okay.
The execution site was in front of the escarpment where Bamenda Highland Hotel is. For those people who know Bamenda, you leave City Chemist roundabout, is the first set of hotel on your right hand side on the Commercial Avenue, just before you reach Pressbook.
I see.
So I was heading down that area and I saw this blue Volkswagen, which I recognize as the vehicle from Bafut. Those days, let me get some water, please. In those days, there were very few people who had Volkswagen. The Volkswagen was
the car for the priest.
For the priest. So this one, we knew what it was.
Okay.
I saw it coming, so I just went and flagged the thing down.
I see.
And he pulled down, pulled up, and I did not recognize the priest. I said, I don't recognize you, but my name is Michael Eva, and I'm a student from grammar school. I come from Bafut.
Okay.
I have no transport going back home. But I know this car is from
Bafut mission.
And he said, yes. So if you want me to take you to Bafut, remain here. And when I come back from the bishop's house, I'll pick you up.
How was the priest tall?
It's very tall. Because you know how short the Volkswagen is. He sits in there and his head is almost touching the ceiling. But he was very tiny, very slender guy.
Okay.
Smaller than who I am now.
I see. So you waited there?
I waited there, pulled my box, and then in about an hour he showed up.
Wow.
And then helped me put my box. When I jumped into the car, we drove off the platform. The whole agenda to go and witness the public execution was gone. I could go there and miss my.
Can you imagine?
My ride.
You're right. You're free right there. So he took you to your house?
Took me. I was expecting that he would take me to the mission house and then I would carry my box and go. But he asked, "Where is your house?" So I went. He parked the car directly in front of our house. We came out. And he carried my box right down to the house and told my mother and grandmother he's too small to carry this box, so I brought him.
That's quite
And then so Mama, they thanked him.
Okay.
And then we left. I think then I would go to church in the mornings and I would see him, just greet him.
So he was in Bafut?
He was in Bafut. He had just come back from Switzerland and his first assignment was in Bafut.
Okay. Wow.
And then there was a day, Mama, they gave me some eggs.
Okay.
They tied those eggs in one of these plantain things in a very nice, presentable way.
Okay.
So go and give him and thank him for bringing you home.
Wow.
Which I went and did.
Yes.
Then I left and came back to school. Then one day I got up and I heard over the radio, there's a program, the Catholic program, I've forgotten what I think it's not Catholic Panorama, because that one comes on Sunday. They have a program of announcements that comes up on Fridays evenings.
Oh, wow.
So it was during that program
that
the announcement came that he had been appointed rector of the seminary.
I see.
The seminary was just created.
Exactly.
Bishop Parcour and the rest, and Junfa and the rest, they were the first set of priests or students who came in.
Okay, interesting. So
when I came back the following summer, to go to Bambui was a very unique experience. It was I was very curious to go to Bambui.
Yes.
Remember that we grew up hearing about seminary.
Yes.
And seminarians. When you hear somebody has gone to the seminary in Enugu, Ibadan, they're coming back, you're looking at them. So what does a seminary campus look like? But I have been there at St. Peter's when it was a practicing school and a teacher's training. Well, that's where I got my interview. But there's this curiosity. Let me go and see what a seminary looks like.
Okay. And you made it.
Yeah, but my reasoning now was that at least I have somebody that I can go that I want to go and see. Yes.
Exactly.
So I went off to Bambui.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I did not meet him.
Oh, he wasn't there?
Yeah, he was not there.
Oh, there were no phones in those days?
No. Then, so I left and I went back to school.
Okay.
And then the next year, as I coming back, Father Kofon, Monsignor Kofon, comes back from Rome.
Okay.
And then was sent to Bambui.
Oh.
So that day I went to go visit him. I met the two of them.
Oh my God, so nice.
Yes. And then Father Tumi, Christian Tumi, is now appointed Bishop of Yagua.
Wow.
And then he leaves. And then I lost touch with him.
Because you were in the United States?
No, I had not come to the United States. I was somewhere in Cameroonian area.
Oh, exactly.
And then from there I left and I came to the United States, and for a long time I never got in touch with him until when he was back in Douala as Archbishop and then Cardinal. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much for that anecdote. It's very important for me. So you came to the United States, you went into studies?
Yes, I was admitted University of Minnesota to do soil science.
Okay.
But within the first year, I switched to agricultural engineering.
Wow.
And did an undergraduate degree in agricultural engineering.
Okay, great.
Then left from there and went to Kansas State University.
I see.
Prior to that, in my undergraduate, I had done a project.
Yes.
Which I was targeting to go back and work with cinema. So most of the information for that project came from Cameroon.
I see.
And I had designed a planter for groundnuts. And the idea was that I would take that design. If I go back to cinema, then we will try to do a prototype and then develop it.
Okay.
But when I went back in '91, that was when the economic crisis hit in, and then VMO also came in.
Exactly.
Cinema was collapsing.
Oh,
they had closed the center in Garoua.
Okay.
The one in Bamenda was at the verge of closing. From what the director in Yaoundé told me, he said it's just because the Bamenda people are so hard.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would have been shut down. So the one in Corbisson was completely gone.
Can you imagine?
Yes. So I didn't see life moving at all.
Oh my God.
And then to make life very frustrating,
yes,
I went to take my repatriation fee.
Okay.
Which was money they kept. If you came back to the country, you would take it. So when I went to take that money,
yes,
immigration said, okay, go to Ministry of Scientific Research,
yes,
and bring a letter that you are back in the country.
Okay.
I went and I got the letter, brought it back to immigration. They took the letter and took my passport and then stamped my passport in Balabo.
Can you imagine?
And that was it.
They didn't give you back your money.
And they didn't give me the money.
That's so terrible.
So I figured out a way.
Yes.
I think I came down to Buya.
Okay.
And met this my friend Achingale.
Yes. Always a Chingale.
That's the guy that I said I had asked him.
Yeah, for the passport.
And he gave me that list. So now I'm back again in his house.
Yes.
But this time he helped because he went and met a police officer.
Okay.
Who helped me to get documentation on the situation about my passport.
Okay.
Then he took me now and presented it to one Mr. Nchanji, who was the commissioner for immigration at the time. So Mr. Nchanji made me a new passport.
Okay.
The next day,
you were back?
Back.
Wow.
I came back now and I went down to Kansas State University to do a master's degree.
Wow. In?
I did it in agricultural mechanization and then with a minor in soil physics.
Wow. You're an intellectual, eh? You've always been interested in studying.
Yes. During that time, I found to survive in school, I was running a radio program on campus.
Wow.
Through which the school was making advertisements over the radio program, and that's how they were able to help me for my tuition. Wow. And then I also had a research assistantship with the United States Department of Agriculture, which had an office on campus.
Okay.
And I was doing research on wind erosion properties and soil properties.
Wow. So you were a journalist?
Yeah, I was a kind of a journalist.
That's great. Wow, interesting.
And so with that combination, I survived my master's program, hoping that I'm going to go back.
Okay. So what happened?
Things are still not doing well in Cameroon.
Yes.
All right. Then what you call the farm crisis in the United States hit bottom rock at that point. So I couldn't even get a job in the agriculture.
Oh my God.
So where am I going now? So I decided to go back to school, Michigan State University. So this time I went into systems science and technology management.
For your doctorate?
Yes.
Wow.
So I completely switched out.
Exactly. No, this priest was saying yesterday, we have to be like the river.
Yeah.
You don't stop. When things don't work, look for another way. And
You just meander.
yeah, you have to meander and find a way. You can't just sit there. And that was what you did. Congratulations. So you finished in Michigan with a doctorate?
Yeah.
When was that, doctor?
That was 96.
Oh my God. I'm so impressed, Dr. Niba. So when did the diaconate idea come in? Did it come after the doctorate or before?
It's something I really cannot pinpoint.
Okay.
If I were to write a story or trace a story of my diaconate program, I think it goes back to maybe even before I was born.
Exactly.
So there's not really a particular point. I can say there are things that helped, that led along the way, and then you just discover pieces. To say that I actually sat down one day and said I'm going to a diaconate program, no, it did not materialize.
Wow.
The first time, I didn't even know of a permanent deacon.
Okay.
The first time that I encountered a deacon, I had not met her yet.
Okay.
But I went to church and I saw a black clergy on the altar.
Okay.
From his vestments, I could tell he was a deacon.
Exactly, from the dalmatic. So
no, he didn't even have a dalmatic. He just had his stole.
Oh, okay, of course.
Yes.
How could you tell? It means you're already very, very committed to the church.
No,
you knew stuff.
I knew the church.
Remember,
I was a catechist.
Exactly. I forgot that. That's important. You were a catechist.
And even before I was a catechist, I was a head servant, head altar servant. So
you
I
have to teach.
I was laying vestments for
the priest.
For the priest to come and.
Wow. That was a seminary for you indeed.
Yes.
Okay.
So I knew that this was a deacon, and this is the first time.
Yes.
In my 12 plus years in the United States that I am seeing a black clergy in a Catholic church
celebrating mass.
Yes.
Wow.
First time.
Can you imagine? And this is 2000 and.
This is 1996.
Oh wow.
No, this is 95.
Can you imagine? So you were so moved.
So I had a curiosity to talk to him.
Okay.
So after mass, I went and I met him, and I was very plain with him. I said, "This is the first time I'm seeing a black man in a Catholic church."
What's his reaction?
Yeah. He said, "No, there are a few of us around."
Wow.
So I asked him, knowing how the diaconate path is to the priesthood.
Yes.
It has to be like a year or at most 2.
Exactly.
So I asked him, so when is your priestly ordination? He said, no, I'm a permanent deacon. And I said, what? He said, yes. So what does that mean? So he explained to me. So as he was talking, then this woman came up. I think she overheard the conversation, and then they joined into the conversation. So he turned around and said, this is my wife. I said, okay, this has to be a little bit serious now.
Wow, so you came and joined?
No, the man's wife.
Oh, the man's wife.
I had not met
him. Okay, the man's wife, who was it?
Yes.
Okay, the wife of the permanent deacon.
Yes.
Wow.
And so he said, this is my wife. And I said, your wife? And you're a permanent deacon. And he said, yes. So I said, I just nodded my head and I said, okay. So I asked, so how long have you been? He said, no, this is the parish I serve in.
Wow.
So the next Sunday I came again and I still saw him.
Okay.
After church, I will greet him.
Yes.
So we became friends.
I see.
Then when I finally met her and she came, we were still friends and I introduced them. So we were the family. Today, the mother is actually, the wife is actually the godmother to my first son, Andrew.
Can you imagine?
But
wow.
So one day he gave me, because of the my curiosity on what is the life of a permanent deacon and that. So he sent me some material. He asked for my address.
Okay.
So they mailed me some material. I took the materials and read it, but I didn't really have an interest in it. And he never asked me whether I would consider going to the diaconate.
Okay.
But I read the materials. Now I knew what it was.
I see.
But I still I had still been thinking of a pursuit for the priesthood, but at that point I know that was then gone, so forget about it.
Okay.
Then we come down to Chicago, and the church we were attending, St. Henry.
Okay.
We met another deacon there who was a permanent deacon.
Okay.
But he's white.
Yes.
And he happened to have baptized my first son.
Lovely.
So we asked him, so we talked about, I talked to him about the diaconate,
yes.
What it was, and he just explained.
Okay.
But he never told me anything, come do this, nor did I express to him that it was a desire for me to be there. The one thing he kept on insisting was he used to serve at a nursing home.
Okay.
He used to minister at the nursing home, and I hated the nursing home.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
Yes.
So every time he invites me to go there,
yes.
I will accept, but I will not show up. He keeps on inviting me week after week, and I will come up with every excuse.
Yes, not to go.
So one day he told me we will go to the nursing home. He said, I go there at 10 o'clock. So let's meet at the church area about 9:45 and then we go. And I said yes. And I knew I was not going.
Okay.
So that Sunday, the phone rings. When I pick up the phone, he said, are you ready? Can we go now? And I said, where are you? He said, I'm downstairs waiting for you.
So there was no escape. Wow, so you came down?
So I came down and then we went to the nursing home.
Okay.
And I saw what he was doing. So we came back. 2 weeks later, he called me again. We went.
Okay.
And then we just kept on going to the nursing home.
Oh, wow.
I gained familiarity. I just kept on going. He's not telling me anything about
the program.
Yes. In the meantime, I have told her
yes.
that I think this idea about permanent diacon is something worth exploring.
Okay.
She didn't just entertain it at all.
Okay, at first.
Yeah. She said, I don't think that's something for you.
Okay. Okay.
I tried to bring it a second time. She dismissed it, so I just kept quiet.
Okay.
My friend still has not told me
anything about
but he's kept on intensifying that we go to the nursing home.
Oh.
So one time he called me one Sunday and said he cannot make it. I should go and help.
Okay, so you went.
So I went there. Now I'm alone.
Yes.
I managed to say prayers there and then came back. If you fast forward, I ended up ministering in that nursing home for 6 years, even after he died.
Can you imagine?
And this time as a deacon.
Oh my God! What a miracle! Wow.
So I started praying if this was going to be something that would materialize.
Okay.
So if it's something that can let at least God show me a way.
Yes, He will.
And so I just kept on, I think it was about 2 or 3 years.
Okay. After.
Yes. Then one day we had a friend, one Mr. Ambe.
Okay.
Albert.
Yes.
Retired custom officer.
Okay.
He was visiting the brother in Minnesota. So he happened to come down to visit us.
I see.
So in the evening we are sitting on the table and we are talking. We just finished eating. We are all talking stories here and here and here and here. Nothing concerning church.
Okay.
And then out of nowhere, my wife just says, hey, and the whole place was quiet. If you want to go be that your deacon thing,
yes,
I don't get problem with her.
Wow.
Nobody invoked the conversation.
About
she made that statement. The table was quiet for a while.
Wow.
And then we continued with the conversation. Nobody asked, what did you just say?
No, did you?
No.
Wow.
Then I started internalizing. That morning when I got up and I went to work.
Before you continue, Mrs. Florence, why did you make that declaration? Was it in an inspiration?
Originally, I did not want him to go to the seminary.
Okay, for the permanent diaconate program.
Yes, for I was just looking at the fact that we just got married.
Okay.
You know, we are living with our differences.
Yes.
Not that it was a bad marriage, but
Okay.
we had so many people in the house.
Okay.
And it was his first time of getting married, my first time to get married. So if he said the sister was wrong, I said he sided with the sister. If he said I was wrong, the sister said you sided with your wife. So he was always in between.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, look, right is right, wrong is wrong.
That's true.
And so I said, if we cannot manage a small family,
Yes.
how can we manage the church, which is the bigger unit? Many families build up a church. So that was my whole idea.
Okay.
So the city college where I went to, Truman College, I spoke to the psychologist who was there.
Okay.
He said, no, let him go to the seminary. It can only make him a better person.
Wow.
Took me some time, but all of this I never discussed with him. So when I was done with the city college, I went to Northeastern University.
Okay.
I spoke to another counselor.
Wow.
He said, let him go. It will only make him a better person.
Okay.
So in all of this, I've been struggling internally.
Okay.
And so this day, I was breastfeeding the baby.
Okay.
And I just said, you know, if you want to go and do that, you think you can go. It's a diaconate thing, you can go. At this point, I did not know that I was going to be a part of it.
Okay. Oh, you didn't know?
No. So admissions in the seminary had closed.
Okay.
He said he never slept that night. He was only waiting for day to break.
Yes.
And in the morning, he called the seminary and got this lady called Justine.
Yes.
The woman said, send in your resume. He sent it the resume. His resume was good.
Yes.
So they sent it to the archdiocese. After admissions were closed, they said no, they should let him in.
Wow. Can you imagine?
So the interview wasn't easy.
Okay.
I had to go with him in Munderline, St. Mary's of the Lake,
Yes.
for an interview. And it took us hours.
To get
First of all,
there.
we wrote exams.
Yes.
He was on a different floor, I was on a different floor.
Wow.
No contact.
I see.
But thank God to my secondary education,
Yes.
that really helped me.
Okay.
We went for another interview in Loyola University, different floors.
Can you imagine?
I was heavily pregnant and it was drizzling.
Wow.
And I asked him, is this part of me? Am I going to be going? Because I'm having babies, I'm working, and I'm going to the university already.
Exactly.
So to go to a second university, I'm just barely making it.
Wow.
He did not utter a word. I said, you already have your 2 PhDs.
Exactly.
Let me just go have my first degree. He did not utter. He had this burning desire to become a permanent deacon.
Yes. Wow.
For once, he was quiet, didn't utter a word. He was so nice.
Okay.
We went. Third interview, we went to Berwyn.
Wow.
It was raining hell as well.
Hmm.
We were there for a couple of hours. He was on a different floor. I was on a different floor. This is written. We had written an oral.
Can you imagine? Is it about the doctrine of the church, or what were the exams about, if I may ask?
They just want to see whether I qualify, because they don't want to admit him maybe when I don't know anything, or whether we are compatible.
Okay.
So they look for those. There's a lot of things that they look into.
Okay.
Because we were 72 couples in that class.
Can you imagine? So it was a large number.
And they ended up ordaining only 21.
Wow.
So it was a high screening.
Okay. Okay.
So that is what happened. But like he said,
Yes.
it worked out so well.
Wow.
It did
God
work
was
out.
so powerful.
It was 4 years.
Intensive formation. So the
Saturdays we went all day,
Okay.
9 to 5.
Okay. So is that how intensive it is?
Yes.
Mm.
Because during the week
Yes.
he went on Sundays, I didn't go.
Okay.
And if I took the full program, I had 9 credits of masters.
Wow.
So I did 2.5. He did 4 plus.
Okay.
So I did 2.5 or 3, because I followed him in every thing that he needed to do. For the retreat, it was compulsory.
Okay.
For Sister Grace Ngu, late Sister Grace Ngu of blessed memory
Yes.
of late, she'll come and sit with the baby.
Wow.
I will go with him
You
to
had
the
support,
seminary.
family support.
Yes, it was. They made sure the women understood
Okay.
what the formation was for,
Wow.
so that you don't come and say, I did not
No,
know.
no. Mm. Wow.
And we had classes with the cardinal. The women had their own classes. The men,
Then we had a joint session.
Wow.
So it was a good experience that I followed him, because it actually made me a better person.
And made you to know more about the church. No?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So Reverend Dr. Niba, what a switch, right? You gave up. You said, God, use me the way you want. You felt this call in you, and you went for it.
Yes, I think so. When I go back and I look through the years, and that's why I was saying,
yes.
I think God has a way of forming you through various channels for an intended purpose.
Correct.
If I look back now, there is probably a lot of diaconal work that I had done.
Exactly. As a catechist.
As a catechist, going back into Cameroonian, where we built the church. Yeah. Even in secondary school in Mamfe.
Okay.
When we came to school, religion was on the timetable.
Wow.
At around Form 2, Form 3, they revised the timetable, and religion was taken out.
Can you imagine?
And I remember going and having a debate
with
the discipline master, questioning why religion was taken out of
the curriculum.
Yes. And because religion was taken, the priests who used to come say mass on campus, they were also not going to come.
Oh.
The pastors who used to come and minister to the Presbyterians, they were not coming back. So I went and made that I went and debated and made that argument, and the discipline master said, well, the whole concept, it's a decision that administration has taken, they cannot reverse it. Okay. And I said, I respect that, but we want to know that that decision was made without consulting the students. So that's how we ended up that discussion. Okay. Then on the subject of the pastors not coming, he said, well, religion is gone, but we are replacing it with morning devotions. So every morning they brought everybody to the assembly, then they will read some scripture, and sometimes teachers will come and pray, and then give some moral advice. We will sing from the hymnal, the church hymnal. Yes. And students who were in the upper sections, like from 4, from 5, they were also being trained to do morning meditations. Wow. So that's how we were doing it. But then I went back and I said, that does not replace
religion.
It cannot replace the mass.
No, it cannot.
So if you cannot do anything else, we would want to have the mass back on campus. Okay. And he said, here is the timetable. Where are they going to fit the mass? And Thursday afternoons was a general day for sports. Okay. He said, well, the only thing that is, except you want to forgo your sport. I said, okay, if that be the case, we'll forgo the sport. He said, well, if the Catholic students can forgo going for sports in order to attend mass, then he will open up a space.
Oh, wow, and he did.
And I said, so that's right. So he gave us a classroom. Wow. So now it was left to get a priest. So I gathered because some of the Catholic students were around, and I told them that this is what the situation was. There is I remember one of the students in Zue Calista, okay, from Bakosi area there. She was very instrumental in getting, mobilizing the girls, especially the junior students who were Catholic. So I went now and met Father Patrick Ryan, who was the curate of St. Joseph Manfe.
I see.
And I told him that this is the situation, and we would like you to come say mass. And he said, have you talked with the school people? And I said, yes, they offered us a classroom. Wow. So 4 o'clock on Thursdays was the agreed day. And Lord and behold, we sat there on campus on that Thursday, and a car drove up. That was Father Patrick Ryan with his mass about celebrating mass.
Oh, wow. That's good.
But when Father Patrick left,
yes,
I think his replacement was Father Nomi.
Oh.
And Father Nomi was very subtle person.
Calm, quiet.
Yeah, and then that program in the school collapsed.
Oh. Wow.
But when I reflect on those moments now, then I begin to think that there was probably that part of a test or God trying to form you for something at the future.
Which you already came to discover.
So I cannot say that it was this particular moment in time that I decided I was going to. No. Things came left and right, and then there was probably something that was in the making.
Yes.
But you are seeing something else because that's the only thing you see. But God has another thing that He's seeing, but He's routing you eventually to that. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so impressed. So you went through the 4 years formation, intensive, some theology, philosophy.
Yes, all of the 4 dimensions of formation in the seminary. That's what we went for.
Intellectual, human, pastoral.
Yes. The 4 dimensions, all of them.
Yes.
The 4 years excludes the year of discernment, aspirancy. So it's actually 5 years.
5 years.
Wow. You guys went through a very serious formation. I'm so impressed. So tell me, after that you were told that you'd be ordained a deacon, how did you feel? And you were informed too, I think, both of you at the same time.
Well, it came at the end of every year, there is an evaluation.
Okay.
And you are told if there are any laggings, you are informed of that.
Okay.
And so, and if they, in some cases, they would ask you either to withdraw or they would give you some time out and say, okay, we'll watch you out for this and see if there are any corrective things.
Okay.
I remember a time when I was very nervous because we were supposed to go in for a retreat.
Okay.
On Friday. So, and yes, and we were in groups.
Okay.
So the person who was like on your head around to call you, did not call.
Oh my God.
So I decided to call him and find out what was happening. Yes, why he had not called. So when I called him,
what did he say?
He said that no, I called other persons and they said they had received calls and a letter that they were coming for the retreat, but I did not get a call. And when I called the guy, the guy did not get the call.
Can you imagine? He didn't pick up.
No, he did not get a call that he should come.
Okay, okay.
But he was on my call tree.
I see.
Then I now learned that he had been advised not to come.
Oh.
So now I'm quickly calling around. So, okay, if I didn't get a call, so that means I'm on the advisory list. So I don't want to go there and make a fool of myself.
Exactly. So you want to find out.
He was worried the whole time. But I have more faith in him than he had in himself.
Oh, yeah.
I told him, no, they cannot throw you out.
So I'm so nervous, and the next day I'm going in there just sitting to hear it.
So you're always there to console him, say you're
so
going to be fine.
Went up there, and then it turned out that no, it was just an error.
Okay.
But that was a very nervous
moment for you.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Then year 4.
Okay.
That's
2006.
2004.
Oh, 4, sorry. Okay.
That's the year of decision now.
Wow.
Well, I had been in the acolyte and reader, those installations had taken place.
Okay.
So that full path was behind.
Wow. Interesting.
So there was the retreat where the final decision is going to be made. So we went into that retreat.
Okay.
And there was this evaluation form that was brought in, which kind of like taking you back all of your years and through the whole path of those 4 dimensions. And the general impression of everybody there was that if they had sent that form,
yes, it means
in the beginning or somewhere in the middle, they would have been gone.
Okay. Why?
Because it was so intense, it was so provoking, that you're wondering whether this is really something you really want to get into. In some points, you're thinking that you are inadequate to go in there.
Yes.
On the other side, it's like there's these eggshells that you are going to be walking over without breaking them.
Okay.
And then
Interesting.
the final point was where you sent to your room to make a decision and write a letter to the cardinal requesting to be ordained.
Okay.
So that morning we were at mass, and then they were given instructions, and you go to your room.
Yes.
In your room is a blank sheet of paper and a pen and a kneeler and a cross.
Wow.
The cross is on the wall.
Yes.
And the kneeler is here
In front of the cross.
in front of the chair. Then you have a desk. You have a desk.
Yes.
And then a pen and a paper. Those are the only things in there. And you could hear a pin drop, and it's okay. You have 2 hours to sit in there and write that and write the letter. 3 o'clock, we are coming back for mass.
Yes.
And you come with your letter during offertory. You come and place your letter on the altar.
Wow.
You have 2 hours. That's the most difficult letter I have ever written in my life.
Why was it difficult?
How do you begin it? When you have just gone through that,
Okay. Yes.
that evaluation form.
That very challenging. What you have to do.
And we were asking questions. So how do we address it? They said, no, it is your words. Nobody said you made the decision to come here. You write a letter requesting to be ordained.
Exactly.
That's all we can tell you.
So it took you 2 hours.
We were given 2 hours.
Okay.
It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
And they said come back at 3.
Were you together?
Always together.
Okay. I'm very happy to hear that. So both of you got the letter.
No, you write your own, and then she has to write her own letter.
But I want him to.
Yes.
Okay. So how did the letter writing go?
No, in the end I wrote.
Okay, you told me.
I just said, I wrote, I can't even remember the word, but it was something to the tone of, I am requesting to be ordained as a permanent deacon for the Archdiocese of Chicago. And I signed my name. That was what I wrote.
And you handed it on in offertory? Offertory?
Yes, at that mass.
And then after what happened? You were told that it was accepted, the request?
No, you're not given the response right away.
Right away.
Oh,
Because you're writing to the cardinal.
Okay, so it will take time. So
Yes. So,
Cardinal George, right?
Cardinal George.
Then. So what happened
after that, we just continued back with classes.
Okay.
We're going back to classes, and then one day got a letter in the mail.
Wow.
From the cardinal that you have been accepted to be ordained.
How did you feel that day you read that letter?
It was just fine.
Oh, and you, Mrs. Florence?
Well, I always call Cardinal to me, and this time around, he will not ask me, when are you coming home?
Okay.
Because I told him my both parents are deceased.
Yes.
His father is deceased, but his mother has a handicapped son.
Okay.
I will not be able to make it.
Yes.
I said, if you don't come to take Michael to the altar, he will be a complete orphan on that day.
Okay.
He was quiet.
Okay.
So every time I called or he called, there was no conversation on, when are you coming home? So I told him that he will come.
Okay.
He had a bet with me. I said, okay, $3,000.
Wow.
And as God will have it, he came.
He came.
He just called one afternoon. I was stepping out. At that time, it was a landline.
Yes.
So I ran back. I almost didn't come. So when I ran, I picked it. He said, Christian Cardinal to me from Douala.
Wow.
He doesn't call like that. If he calls, there's something.
Okay.
He said, I have my flight, Air France. I did not let him finish. I screamed. He just sat quiet.
Okay.
When I stopped screaming, he continued. I screamed out of excitement. He stopped. He said, Florence, are you finished shouting? I said, yes, Your Eminence. He said, so I'll be in Chicago O'Hare Airport on so and so date, on so and so time.
Okay.
I just could not help
Wow.
but to call him at work. He closed work half day.
Yes.
He was so excited.
How was your reaction, Dr.
It was.
Reverend Dr. Niba?
Within that time frame, I lost my hair.
So, dear viewers, you can see here Dr. Niba and Mrs. Florence have had a very wonderful relationship with the Cardinal. You can see the Cardinal here. Such a lovely picture. So he came for the diaconate
He
ordination.
came for the ordination
Can you
because
imagine?
the day he arrived O'Hare and
Yes.
went in and they finished the mass, then he came for my first mass that same afternoon.
Yes.
It was a Sunday 16th of May.
Wow.
The ordination was at 1 o'clock at Holy Name Cathedral.
Okay.
And then we left there and came up to St. Henry, which was my parish,
Okay.
and he presided over my first Thanksgiving mass,
Wow.
which was at 6 o'clock that evening.
And you stood by him.
Yes, and then with a reception at the hall.
Okay.
And then Monday afternoon, he went back to Douala.
Wow. Very brief and straight.
He said, I came here just for the ordination, I'm going back.
So how was the diaconate? Many people, your friends came in from your family members.
A lot of people came.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
but
Commissioner of Health in Chicago was at
the
the,
diaconate.
yes, he was at the mass in Holy Name.
Okay.
My brother came all the way from New York.
Wow.
He was the deputy ambassador for the UN.
Okay.
I had so many family members
Wow.
from abroad and came, and most of the Chicagoans were there, Michigan,
Yes.
all his friends from school.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
Was it
full
historic?
hall.
Wow.
It was a full hall.
Archbishop Paul
Bezekov.
Yes.
sent Father Michael Niba,
Okay.
who was at the seminary as the Dean of Philosophy in
to come.
Bangui. He sent him to come and represent him
Wow.
here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You couldn't make it.
Yeah. He was sick at the time. He was in Ginicom Hospital.
Okay.
And it's a very, because I had invited him,
Yes.
and when the letter came, he was in the hospital.
Okay. Here in
And
the US.
No, in Ginicom.
Angela comes.
Yes, and Father Michael had also invited him to come, but Father Michael said he doesn't think that the Archbishop would allow him to come. I said, well, but if he is sick,
Yes.
you need to go and get to him.
Yes.
And so I spoke with him and I said, but where is he? He said he's in Ginicom. I said, okay. Ginicom is not far from where you are.
Exactly.
I don't know whether he read his letter or not, but I have sent you the copy of the letter.
Good.
So take the letter, drive down to Ginicom and give him in his sick bed.
Yes.
So I said, when I drop the phone, you drive and go. I'll be waiting. After 2 hours, I'm calling you back.
Okay. And he did go.
He did.
Okay.
And when I called him, he said, I think you and the Archbishop have something to do with.
Of course.
So he went and then he told me, and then the Archbishop said, no, Father, go and see him ordained as Reverend.
Oh my God. What a
And,
privilege.
It was 4 or 5 days
Mhm.
to ordination.
Can you imagine?
Then I had, so Father Michael now, as God will have it, had to make a trip to Yaoundé to get a visa. In the meantime, I'm looking for a ticket. He's coming out of Yaoundé from the embassy to get the visa,
Yes.
and he said the visa is here. We got the same ticket that same day.
Oh my
The
God.
ticket was electronic.
Okay.
So he picked the ticket.
Yes.
I think we were driving up to Monderline,
Yes.
and then we just took him from the airport
Wow.
on Monderline.
Okay.
And I picked a shirt from the house here, and then he changed in the car as we were driving up to Monderline.
Oh my God. Everything worked perfectly well.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but Archbishop Paul sent him to come and represent.
I'm very impressed with the relationship you have with your home diocese.
Yes.
I was impressed. You went back to Cameroon in 2007. Could you narrate that incident? Well, it was not an incident. It was a wonderful initiative to
it's,
go back home to the diocese.
It's often said if you don't know where you come from, you can never know where you're going to.
That's true.
Our blessing, our foundation came from Cameroon.
That's true.
And
That's
so that was the basis.
That's very impressive. I'm happy about that. Your roots.
Yes.
You know, it was the return to Nazareth
Okay.
for us.
Wow. Back to to the birth.
To go back to Cameroon was like Jesus going back to Nazareth.
Oh my God, so powerful.
Actually, the readings
of
for the
day.
Mass of that cathedral, the Gospel reading was the return of Jesus to Nazareth. That's the Gospel we selected.
And you proclaimed it?
Yes. and the first reading was the reading from where the prophet asked, choose who to serve. As for you and as for me and my family, we will choose God to serve.
Wow.
Those are the two readings that we picked.
Okay.
That first reading was saying, okay, yeah, we give this family to the service of God.
Wow.
And that reading of Jesus going back to Nazareth was to say, we came from here. This is what we have. We're coming back.
Very powerful.
Coming back to say, this is the product that you raise. But not coming to stay because our ministry is not here.
There.
Yes.
That was a very,
and something very interesting.
Very powerful gesture.
Something very interesting happened in Holy Name Cathedral.
Okay.
When all the clergies were lined up.
Yes.
The cardinal and the bishops. Bishop Conway is of late now.
Okay.
Left the line, came all the way to the front.
Yes.
And hit him on his chest.
Oh, did he?
It's like I've handed powers to you.
Oh, wow.
And all the deacons were just looking at him, and all the priests were wondering where he was going to. Then he came and said, my scarf is like his mitre.
Wow.
And he hit him on his chest, that you have made it big.
So
you have brought your cardinal here. You have done so well, even in school. We are very impressed.
Wow.
And then he walked all the way to the end.
Can you imagine? It's quite remarkable.
And I worked with Bishop Conway my first encounter with Bishop Conway was a very interesting one.
Okay.
My parish, the pastor had took an administrative leave.
Okay.
So there was an administrator who was assigned but was not resident.
Okay.
And during that time, I was supposed to do apostolic work.
I see.
In either a sister parish or some other parish.
Okay.
It required that your pastor have to sign.
That's true.
I didn't have a pastor.
Oh.
And this administrator, I cannot get a hold of him. All right. So, and then there was a rumor that they were going to close the parish.
Oh my God.
So I went now to Bishop Conway.
Okay.
Because he was the he was of my vicariate. So
was
he
auxiliary?
Yeah, he was auxiliary.
Okay, okay.
And he was in charge of my vicariate.
Okay.
So I went to him now to seek to have him sign.
That's true.
So I could go to wherever this sister parish is.
And he did?
No, he did not sign.
Okay.
He told me, he said, your house is on fire. You should sit in there and figure out what is going on rather than go into some other place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He said, your pastor is gone.
Good.
You have a temporal administrator. The parish council is collapsing. You go and figure out how you are going to fix it. Because what you are going to do in the sister parish is solving problems. Solve your own problems.
So how did you solve that?
I came and I went and met Chuck, who was the president of the parish council.
Okay.
And of course, he had been calling meetings. Nobody was coming. So I went and talked to him. So we organized, and then we called members of the parish council, and then some parishioners organized and said, look, I have information that they are not closing the parish.
Okay.
But if we agree and bring people in, I'm going to have the bishop come and explain.
Wow. So
they started mobilizing. Then I went back to Bishop Conway and said, if I pull together people, can you come and talk to them?
He said yes.
And he said yes. So I came back and then we arranged. And then in one evening he came and addressed the people.
Wow.
And when he left, I wrote a report. On that meeting and the decisions that were taken. And then we reconstituted the parish council.
Wow.
and that's how we got there.
And you got a pastor.
Yeah.
And he signed it.
No, so I did. So my internship was reorganizing the parish.
His parish that was collapsing.
Okay, I see. So you didn't go to the
No, I
sister
didn't go
parish.
to the sister parish.
What a wonderful job you did.
So I'm the only one in my class that did not do an internship out of their parish.
Okay.
I stayed in my own parish.
Quite remarkable. Quite remarkable. So I'm so impressed that the diaconate was such a remarkable event.
Yeah.
The presence of two cardinals.
Yeah.
I'm sure Cardinal George was so happy.
He was.
Can you imagine a cardinal from Cameroon?
Because he was a friend to Cardinal to me.
Okay.
Because he was in charge of the oblates, so he used to go to northern Cameroon.
Oh, really?
And we spent time with him. So every time we were in the seminary, he would come sit with us and talk. He would talk for a while. It was like, what's the cardinal talking with this black face? Nobody really understood.
Understood.
Yes.
And Cardinal George at the time when he was going there was a priest.
Oh.
He was a priest and the superior for the Oblates of Mary.
Can you imagine?
They had a house in
Yes, today in Yagua.
Yeah, in Yagua.
Wow.
And Cardinal told
Was
me
the bishop of
in
India?
Yagua at that time. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Quite impressive. Okay. So diacon ordination, then the idea came to go back to your roots, as Mrs. Florence was explaining. So you to travel to Cameroon. Who was the Archbishop then in Bamenda? Archbishop
Cornelius S.
How was the reception?
Was very good.
That's wonderful.
Yes, I actually read an article in the F4 where he was interviewed because people were asking him, "We've never seen this before. A permanent deacon with his wife and children. Would this ever happen in Bamenda?" Did you read those comments from people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how can you comment that? Do you think that would ever happen in our English-speaking Cameroon, in the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province?
Of course, it's just a matter of time.
It's a matter of time, and
The church is evolving.
the church evolves and things also change.
Okay.
And it's also a matter of what you call a conversion.
Okay.
At the time when I came,
Yes.
before I came, I had written an open letter to the bishops of
really?
the province
Okay.
on the issue of the permanent diaconate.
Okay.
And when we came home and met Bishop Awa,
Okay.
I tried to follow back on that.
What did he say?
Bishop Awa's position was that there is a lot of work that is being done by the catechists out there.
Okay.
That does not raise the necessity of having a permanent diaconate.
Okay.
Cardinal George will argue that
Yes.
and say it is not a question of replacing or
Exactly.
filling a spot.
That's
Cardinal
true.
George will say it is an office.
Good.
And that there are 3 clerical offices in the church.
That's true.
If one is absent, then
The other suffer.
yes. And as a matter of fact, when Cardinal George was alive,
Yes.
if he is coming to your parish to say mass and there is no deacon, he tells you, if you don't have a deacon, you go borrow one.
Oh, really?
Because I'm not celebrating a mass where there is no deacon.
Wow.
And he says the deacon is so valuable to me
Extremely.
because if I have 2 phone calls coming and I have only one to pick, one from the deacon, one from the priest, I'm picking the one from the deacon. And the priest never used to like that. Now, when I was in Birmingham, so the Archbishop Eswa,
Yes.
they had a slightly different approach. Because his was that it's something that needs to be studied carefully
Okay.
and reflected on because there are so many dynamics.
Okay.
He never went into the dynamics,
Okay.
but over time, I think I knew what the dynamics were. All right.
And what were they?
In the United States,
Okay.
I have a secular job. She has a secular job.
Yeah.
I belong to a parish.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
If today, my formation is partly sponsored by the archdiocese and my parish.
Okay.
So I belong here. I can only be moved within the archdiocese.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
In the Cameroon situation, if you are a teacher and you are interested in being a permanent deacon and you went into formation
That's true.
and your parish sponsors you,
That's true.
and a government teacher for that matter, tomorrow if you are transferred from Bamenda to
Yeah.
Kuseri,
Yes.
So how do you manage that too? You see, so I think that's what Archbishop Cornelius was thinking of.
Okay.
That I started thinking about this.
Okay.
All right. So those type of transfers that come, how do you handle that?
Oh, that's true for someone who is working, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Because they are not. You still have a secular job.
That's true.
That is outside of that. All right.
Wow.
And then there is also the part of formation.
Okay.
Who pays for that formation?
That's true. Back home,
And most of our people
collections.
will not be able to afford to do that. Parishes are barely supporting the seminary.
And the priest.
Yes. But I think it's now when we went to Birmingham for the ordination of Darsham.
Birmingham in the UK.
In the UK.
Oh, wow.
That's the second Cameroonian who was ordained in Gamsha.
Ordained Permanent Deacon.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
He's from Kumbo Diocese.
Wow.
So the Archbishop
Second English.
Cornelius was there.
Okay.
So we went there for that ordination. That question came up on the floor.
Okay.
And this is where I think I said it's a matter of conversion with time.
I see.
His response was completely different from what he had in Bamenda the previous years.
You see.
He said, I have never received an application from anyone requesting to be a permanent diaconate.
So it changed.
Until I received an application and I evaluate it on its merit, then can I answer the question that you are asking?
So dear viewers, those of you interested in the permanent diaconate, if you are married somewhere there in the United or in the classical post of Bamenda, you can approach the archdiocese and send in the application. You might be the first in Cameroon, in the English, in the ecclesiastical province of Bamenda to be permanent deacon. It's extremely important in the church. It's not a matter of we have no space for them. It's no. It is important because it's a great mission, family mission, the children, and we need that.
Yeah, but I
you know you can also be a permanent deacon, not married.
Exactly. It's also
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
But you have to decide that before ordination.
before
Exactly.
ordination,
Yes.
and once you're ordained, then you
That's
cannot
it.
get
You
married.
cannot.
So that has to be clear.
But
But I still think that people who are interested, especially in the Cameroon situation,
okay.
it is something that the Cameroon church has to reflect on.
Seriously.
Yes, because I think there are a lot of dynamics that are completely different from what you have in the Western world.
That's true.
Those have to be taken into consideration. Perhaps if you were to get permanent deacons maybe out of religious orders,
Okay.
that might work because they are already in a religious community that is already committed. It's well structured.
That's true.
So the stability of the diaconate will be there. So maybe when you retire, you can go back to Cameroon and then start a movement that builds a laity that grooms people.
I think you have that mission. As the very first, as the wife of the very first permanent deacon in the classical province, you have a mission to accomplish.
So I think we now have religious, we have lay nilhils, lay apostolates in these religious orders like the Claretians.
Exactly.
I think if you start exploring those opportunities in those sectors, you are more likely to get success, and for the church authorities to begin to see through that lens. But to go down directly flat from, there's a lot of dynamics in there.
I see.
And I also think that there are a lot of retirees in Cameroon.
Okay, exactly.
Who can go, who are well read and who are really in the church as lay faithful, but they do quite some work.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of candidates to be considered.
Exactly. Because they have no issues of.
Yes, especially those of them who have lived stable lives.
Okay. Reverend Dr. Niba, Mike, Mrs. Florence, what an honor to be back again. Dear viewers, this is the last part, the conclusion of this scientific interview on Bishop Feudjio. So it was important to know the journey, the parcours of this highly distinguished Cameroonians, the very first English-speaking permanent diaconate in the United States of America, incarnated in the Archdiocese of Chicago. So we've listened to his parcour, his childhood. It was not an easy one, but God placed people to lead him and to get to the United States, and the formation very intensive, and he was ordained. Cardinal Tumi was here, and family members were there to support, and they were back to Cameroon. The Archbishop Cornelius received them, and it was breaking news that Cameroon had never seen that before. They spoke to us about the different dynamics, why it's taking time. But from your last statement, you said the Archbishop Cornelius said, I like the last statement you made about Archbishop Cornelius. He said, what was the statement again?
He said, I have never received an application
exactly
wanting to be a deacon.
So dear viewers, now he's retired. We have a new Archbishop, Archbishop Andrew Kea. So if you feel called to the permanent diaconate, why are you not sending an application? You might be the first in the ecclesiastical province. Who knows? So Dr. Niba, Reverend Dr. Niba, we are going to Bishop Feudjio. This man is the very first African native bishop in the United States of America. His appointment was made on the 2nd of March 2021 by Pope Francis, and he was consecrated on the 17th of April 2021 by Cardinal Wilton Gregory of the Archdiocese of Washington, and the co-consecrators were Cardinal Donald Wills, the Emeritus Archbishop of Washington, and Cardinal O'Malley, who ordained him a priest. So when did you first meet Bishop Jerome, if I may ask?
It was about June, July this year.
After the announcement?
After his consecration.
Oh, after the consecration,
yes.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had no clue that there was anybody from Cameroon, clergy with that name, or even there. So when that announcement, when I got this thing from the Vatican briefings,
exactly.
And I looked at the name and I started thinking, who should this person be? And there was not that much known in the public who this person was.
Yes.
So I just kept calm to see what it was.
Okay.
But the Catholic Women Association, some of their members, and she is also a member of the Catholic Women Association, they were trying to put together something to go and receive him or to participate in the consecration ceremony. And
St. Thomas?
Yeah, at St. Thomas.
Wow, serious.
So she was involved in conversations with people. That's when I started getting a little bit closer to knowing him. And then shortly after that, she would tell you a little bit more because she had more conversations with the bishop than I.
Okay.
And shortly after that, there was some conference or meeting with bishops in the Diocese of Juliet. That was around June, July time frame.
Okay.
And he indicated to her that she would be coming to that conference. So we drove out there.
I see.
And then met him. So that was the first time we met him.
In person?
Yes.
How was the impression? What struck you when you met him for the first time?
When we went to the hotel where the bishops were meeting, I did not know who I was. I didn't know what to expect or who I was going to see.
Okay.
And he had given his room number.
Okay.
So we came to the reception and then gave the number. The reception, they called up there. Nobody was picking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we just stood there. And then after a while, we saw these bishops that started coming. So they were coming from some angle.
Okay.
And then she drew my attention and said, I think he must be somewhere in here because I see a lot of bishops coming
out.
And of course, when he walked out, it was just natural that we realized this is the person. And then he saw us, and then he's just smiling and coming. But he is very warm. He came and hugged us, embraced us. He was very warm, and we just started conversing as if we had known each other for a long time, till the point where I think we even forgot that we were standing in there. And he said, but let's go to the room. But that was my first reaction. I think she...
Mrs. Florence, what was yours? By the way, let's begin from the announcement and the consecration, since you were in the team preparing to go to St. Thomas.
Actually, I didn't go because I had an emergency.
Okay.
But my friends went.
I see.
And they gave a parcel on my behalf because my parcel didn't make it to them on time.
Okay.
So one of my sisters, Cecile Lange, Cecile.
Mm-hmm. What did she do?
Yes, she's in Washington. She's a nurse.
Okay.
So she went and presented a package from us, but we had bought some things and we intended to send it to the islands.
I see.
So I got his number when he got to Washington. I called one of the priests that we were close to from Father Kabongo.
Okay.
Jean-Marie Kabongo. So I called him and he gave me his contact.
Mm-hmm.
So I contacted him and I needed the address to mail out the product. So he said, no, don't worry to mail it out. I will be in Chicago on so and so time for a conference.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we converse, we call him, he calls us.
Yeah.
So when I met him, it was not new to me
Okay.
who I was meeting.
I see.
I mean, he's like Obama. The first time I met Obama, it was like I had known him for years.
Wow.
That's just the encounter. And I was just telling him he's not different from, he has a charisma for Obama.
Okay.
And he was so warm. He had this fatherly figure.
Yes.
You could sense it. You see him, he's so humble. You could sense something very warm, something spiritual. You could see he's so clean. So we sat there, you would think we had known each other
for years.
But that was the first encounter. Even though I've been talking to him over the phone and I've spoken to him as well.
Okay.
And the second time we met was in the Cardinal's house downtown.
I see.
So when he went there and spoke about us, we know a lot of bishops there, and one of the bishops who is a member, one of the members in our foundation.
Okay. Which foundation is that?
John Cockman Foundation. We have the John Cockman Foundation. He's one of the board members.
Okay.
So we used to actually hold the meeting in his house.
I see.
Yeah, Bishop Kane. That's him by Cardinal to me.
Oh, no wonder.
Yes.
Was that Bishop?
Yes, he's retired.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So when he met him, he was like, that is my family.
Oh my God.
So he said, they know you very well. All the bishops, they know us very well. He said, yes, because Cardinal George was like our own father.
Father. Wow.
He was our own father. See him right
Oh
there.
my God.
So we frequent the Cardinal's house.
Okay, so
most of the times, especially when the bishops came here, or if there was some appointment made for him, or at parish level. So we saw him often, and even when he came to our parish.
Wow.
So through that, we're close to a lot of bishops. So they all explained to him that they're very versed with us.
Okay.
We used to cook and then go there and sit and eat.
Oh,
the
wow.
bishops. So that was very warm of him.
Okay.
We went there, we also saw other Reverend sisters, which the Chicago bishops had explained to us that there are some Cameroonian Reverend sisters working with us. Sister Blanche.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to seeing her.
Yes.
And finally met with her.
Wow.
During one of Bishop Feudjio's visit. It was last month.
Okay, so it was recent.
That was our second encounter.
So has he celebrated Thanksgiving Mass here or not yet?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Wow. That's interesting. So what wishes do we have for our new bishop? No, before the wishes. Bishop was telling me it seems I'm not only the Bishop of St. Thomas because now he's the spokesman for the Africans in the United States. So he has a lot of function now. So what wishes do you have for him, Reverend Dr. Niba? In this very, his office is now very, his duties are, he's not going to be, he has a lot to do. So.
Well, I think the first wish is a prayer.
Okay.
To remember him and I will invite everyone to remember him in every aspect of the prayer.
Okay.
Make his intentions, whatever they are, your everyday prayer intention.
Exactly.
I think those will go a long way.
Okay.
I would want, or I would wish that the Holy Spirit gives him the wisdom to be able to take all of these things, that the work that is in front of him, be able to discern, to know what is right and should be done, and at what moment, and by who. Because sometimes you can get a lot of things, and in the midst of excitement, you can lose focus and also priority, and can easily be distracted.
Okay.
So my wish is that the Spirit, the gift of wisdom, a gift of the Holy Spirit, which is a virtue, should be with him at all times. My other wish is for him to have a healthy life.
Okay.
But then I will also tell him to live a healthy life.
Yes.
It may be our wish, but that's work for him to be done.
Exactly.
So he needs to, on that, as a bishop,
yes.
He cannot do everything, because God did not do everything in
Exactly.
the world. God, who could do everything with one word, decided not to, in order to take a rest.
Yeah.
So we human beings cannot
try
to play God. You know? Rest is always very important.
Okay.
But my biggest wish is the gift, the wish
of wisdom. Thank you, Reverend Dr. All of Mrs. Florence?
For me, as a wife of a deacon,
yes,
we are the eyes and ears of the bishops,
exactly,
the priest, and so my wish is for him to continue to preach according to the minds of the church.
Okay.
For him to have been elected, God knows why. This is history for us.
It is history.
And so we as a community should give him that support.
Okay.
Part of the support will be spiritual, prayers for him every day. And if people have any advice they could give him, they shouldn't stay back.
No.
They should move forward and just give him, because God speaks to people through persons. And so we may just sit back and just assume that is a bishop and he knows everything, which is not true.
No.
So how are we going to support him? When you see something and something say go and tell, go and tell. If you see something that could help him say, my Lord, this is what I see. How about this? How can this be done? And of course, I'm happy that he is on this other planet.
Exactly.
He could look for other things to help other bishops in Africa in terms of healthcare, advice on how they can live and how they could rest. The bishop in Africa, they don't rest. They work non-stop.
The priest too.
But Christ worked for 6 days, and on the 7th day, he rested. So that principle should be followed.
Okay.
Yes, they need to rest, they need to look back, they need to remember their families, spend time with their families, which is what we see with other bishops here.
Exactly.
They have days to go and sit with their families. In Africa, the bishops work 7 days a week. They don't even get the opportunity to bond with their families.
That's true.
Because their lives are taken over by the parishioners.
Totally.
And they always see the need, they always want to help.
Okay.
But I think we're in a different era.
That's true.
And that life is revolving. We should strive to live long and healthy as much as we want to serve God.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for that.
So,
before the question on the wishes, I forgot to ask the question of why do you think this appointment is important? The appointment of the very first African native bishop of the United States. Important first of all for Africa, for Africans in the United States.
I think we need a representation.
Very good.
This is a true representation
of a continent.
And that through this, other African nations can benefit.
That's true.
You know, he has been in the Church of Cameroon, in the Church of Africa, and the Church of the United States. The policies may be the same, but the experiences are different.
Very different.
So, appointing him gives us an opportunity for more learning, more opening, for education. The things that we don't have in Africa, yes, we can learn from America. And the things that we don't have in America, we could learn from the Africa. So we could have some kind of exchange programs for priests, exchange programs for the religious, exchange programs for bishops, ideas. He being here, he could tell where there are openings. Bishops in Africa could bring in priests and so on and so forth. So he becomes
a bridge, pontiff,
some kind of liaison,
exactly,
where people could, you know, sail and see better futures.
Wow, for the good of both countries.
Exactly.
Wow.
And of course, inculturation.
Exactly. Wow, I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
Reverend Dr. Niba, do you have anything to add regarding the importance of this appointment to the church, to the Africans in this country, and the Africans back home, and to the Americans themselves?
I think it makes visible, yes, the what the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops Office of Cultural Diversity was created for, because that office within it has a unit, yes, that caters for immigrants, the people who are coming in. And if you read the charter, yes, of that document, and you visit the people in the office, okay, of course we do have people like Sister Okeke who are there, yes, who are working in there. But by bringing in a bishop of African origin or Cameroon origin into that office, yes, I think it elevates and makes more real, exactly, in concrete terms, the representation of that cultural diversity. It brings that element of diversity within the Catholic Conference of Bishops, United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, not just as an office level, but at the hierarchy of the church. Then people can begin to relate. That's true. To say, as Florence was saying, that there's a representation. So now you can say, yes, at this hierarchy, I've got that. Exactly. There are certain things within the Office of Cultural Diversity that can be discussed that touch on various areas and people. But sometimes they may never rise up into those committees where the bishops are sitting. But I think with him now sitting in those committees becomes a very natural way to elevate those voices that go down there. Wow. There is also a risk in this. Really? The risk here is that he can be mistaken to be some kind of a floating ambassador for all the Africans, exactly, or all the Cameroonians that are in there. But before we do that, we have to first understand that he is the bishop of a diocese
in this country.
He's the bishop of a diocese.
Very important.
Because if we don't first recognize that, very soon we will start getting smears. Okay. There's a bishop, I called him, I'm from this place. Even though I introduced myself to him, he did not pay attention to it. I brought this problem to him, he doesn't know. He is first the bishop of a diocese. So that we have to bear in mind. Okay. But as a bishop of a diocese, when he sits at the table, yes, there are things that he can discuss and put it in a language that brings an experience which other bishops may not have. But that's where we have the power and the energy.
Exactly.
So that distinction we have to be careful with it.
So impressive about that. Thank you so much for bringing that out. You know, people have to know that he's a bishop of a diocese, and that will help them to be able to understand. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. You shared your wishes to him. I really wish him a wonderful ministry. And in concluding this scientific interview, I would like to thank you very, very profoundest gratitude for this time you've given. You've illuminated, you've enlightened. You know, you've enlightened so many people who were ignorant about permanent diaconate. You've given them the possibility that it's possible. You can become one if you believe in God. You have to pray, and it's possible for you to. So I wanted to conclude this interview with your relationship. You've journeyed with so many prelates of the Ecclesiastical Province of Bamenda. Like you've spoken about Cardinal George already, experience with him. I would like us to go to Archbishop Paul Vetekov. Did you have any experience with him? He's now been, his introduction to beatification was introduced by his predecessor, Archbishop Cornelius Eswa.
You live down the cathedral beneath him, so you will have
Yes.
Actually, I saw him often because I went to school in Big Macon.
Okay.
One of the things I admired about him was his spiritual nature.
Okay, how was it?
He was a true shepherd. A true shepherd in the practical sense.
Okay.
He was a true example of a leader. It's often said that a lion
Yes.
led by a group of sheep led by a lion would always defeat a group of lions led by a sheep.
Okay.
He was that lion
Wow.
that ran sheep to shepherd.
Okay. Interesting.
And he had a memory.
I was told. He never forgot anything.
My last child who is 14,
Yes.
when we visited him shortly before he passed away,
Yes.
he asked when they think that baby will be born. And my first son said March 1st. He kept all the date.
Okay.
And after I had the baby, he wrote to me
Wow.
that Andrew was right.
Wow.
You know, we're talking about it, but we did not think that he had that in mind. I still have that letter.
Can you imagine?
All the letters he's written to me, I have them.
Oh my God. Well,
So I look at those like a treasure.
Yes.
Even the pictures I took with him,
Okay.
it's a treasure for me.
Wow. Interesting.
And Father Gregory was saying that shortly before he died,
Yes.
he was talking about him. The last day he went, that is praying for his vocation.
Oh. Interesting.
And while we were in primary school, he would preach a doctrine
Yes.
that a small child will understand. He was someone who talked about obedience
Okay.
at all times. Obedience.
Obedience.
And he was so serious that we always thought he was frowning, but that was the nature of his face. Until my own kids were asking me, why is the bishop always frowning?
Yes.
Yes, they asked him, Grandpa,
Yes.
are you frowning? He laughed.
Interesting. So that's why they called him Grandpa.
Yes.
Okay.
They call him Grandpa, and they call the Cardinal Grandpa as well.
Oh my God. So
They know everybody that is older is their grandpa.
so lovely. Interesting.
Yes.
Thank you for
So
that.
they were that privileged to come across him. They were all over his body.
Yeah.
You know, he was just looking at them and was asking me about the journey.
Okay.
The only thing we missed of him is that he was not going out that much.
Exactly.
But I would just imagine there were not that many priests too at that time.
Okay.
So delegation of powers was also a problem.
Okay.
Unlike today where the other bishops have traveled worldwide,
That's true.
they have seen so many things. There are more priests,
Yeah.
more parishes, and there's distribution, more lay people.
Exactly.
So I think that the church is evolving.
Okay.
And when he retired, the life he lived was different from when he was a bishop,
Okay.
an active bishop.
So he had more time.
He had more time. He was so friendly. We always thought he wasn't that friendly, but that wasn't true.
Okay.
As we saw after his retirement,
I see.
he went out, received more people, welcomed a lot of people. He was living in Tasson where we visited him.
Okay.
And so that to me is to say that the bishops on seat now should have more rest, more interaction, to change the face of what people conceived.
Okay. Wow.
What we're conceiving wasn't true.
No, it wasn't.
It was just too much work on him.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I think I admired his leadership.
Okay.
I really admired his leadership.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
What of Archbishop Cornelius Eswa? You met him for the first time as a teacher as a student in Mamfe. Tell me more. Do you have any personal relationship with him? Like with Monsignor Confirmed?
Yeah, when Bishop Eswa, when we met in Mamfe,
Okay.
he invited me to the youth club.
Okay.
Prior to that, when before I got to Mamfe, there was an almanac which it had the priests from West Cameroon. And he was the baby priest who was just ordained at the time.
Okay.
So I saw this picture of this, all the other priests. I mean, they looked a little bit older, but this was this priest with a baby-like face and a cute smile. And then the name Cornelius.
Yes.
Yeah, you hear of names like James, Father James, Father John, Father Peter, MacDonald, and then you find his name, Peter. Cornelius, and then there's this Eswa. So we didn't know whether it was Esau or Esau in the Bible. So, yeah. So all of those pieces, they attract.
Exactly, but that Esau in the Bible is not encouraged, right?
Yeah.
He was jealous of his brother.
Yeah. So but that baby-like face was what was attractive to me, and I said, I hope I can see this man someday.
Okay.
So I'm down in Mamfe, and I went to church. My first Sunday I went to church was a 9 o'clock mass.
Yes.
So as I'm sitting in the pew, the priest walks into the sanctuary, and I see this man. I say, it looks like that father that I saw.
Okay.
So the whole time he's saying, I'm busy trying to validate my image, my memory. And I said, I think he has to be the one.
Okay.
But there's no way of finding out. So as soon as mass was over,
yes,
I immediately went into the path between the rectory and the sacristy.
Okay, waited.
And I stood there. So when he walked out and he was coming,
yes,
I said, "Good morning, Father."
Okay.
He said, "Yes." Before he could ask, I said, "Are you Father Cornelius?" Yes, Father.
What did he say?
He looked at me and then touched my head and said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Well, where are you? Who are you?" I told him my name and I said, he said, "So where are you from?" I said, "From Bafoot and I'm in grammar school Manfred." He said, "Grammar school Manfred." Then he smiled again and looked at me and then tapped my head again and said, "Come and join the youth club." Okay. And then he quickly passed.
Oh my God.
But I went that day and I said, at least I met the person I've been trying to see.
Wow.
So I had to find out now where the youth club was.
Okay.
And the youth club used to meet on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
No, Wednesday afternoons at 4 o'clock.
Wow.
So I went there. And of course, when I went, there were other big boys.
Yes.
Then there were big boys from school who were there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came in. And he had set up a table tennis board.
Wow.
In the hall. And he was teaching some of those boys, the bigger boys, the how they were playing.
Young man.
Yeah, but we're so small, so we were just picking the balls as they were flying over. And then he would teach music.
Oh, wow.
And that's how, so one of the activities of the youth club was choral music.
Okay.
So that's how the Catholic youth choir started.
I see.
That choir now used to sing at the 9 o'clock mass.
I see.
Later on, it will evolve into. So that was that encounter with him within that 1 year. 73, he went to Rome.
Yes,
for studies.
For specialization.
Yes, and then the youth choir now evolved into the Mamfe Youth Choir, which was still singing in church.
Wow.
And we lost track then.
Okay.
And then I did not meet him again until I think 1980.
Okay.
He had just come back from Rome and he was teaching scripture in
Bangui.
I met him very briefly.
Okay.
I had come up from.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I met. So as I was waiting, then I saw him come out, and I just said, "Hey, Father, so you are here?" And he just said, "Yeah." I don't think he could recognize me at that time.
Okay.
And then he left.
I see.
And then before I knew, he was appointed Bishop of Kumbo.
Hmm.
The choir went and sang as his ordination mass, but I never went there because I was at my outstation in Bethlehem.
Wow.
But it was not until 2007 that I met him. But my relationship with him was just within that 1 year.
Okay. So to conclude this interview, could you just summarize to us what a deacon does, a permanent deacon? And you tell us what the wife of a permanent deacon does. Just in the summary, yeah.
Well, the permanent deacon is the third of the clerical ranks in the church. So he celebrates sacraments except the sacraments of the Eucharist, anointing of the sick, and holy orders.
Okay.
And of course here confessions, he doesn't do that.
Yes.
But baptisms, weddings, wakes, committals at the grave, those are done.
He blesses.
He proclaims the gospel and preaches. Doctrinal formation for people who are preparing for the sacraments at all levels.
Exactly.
Is part of the pastoral team.
Wow.
In the parish. And so all of there are liturgical functions that he is a part of, both in the liturgy itself and then in its preparation. Wow. Pretty much. And then he is the liaison between the community. Wow. And the church. Okay. And of course the deacon is ordained for the diocese. That's true. And actually represents the bishop in the community and in the parish.
That's true.
So he may be with a priest in the parish, but he is really directly the handmaid of the bishop.
That's true.
And so those type of directions. So the bishop can give him assignments outside of liturgical functions and out of their pieces. In my case, aside from doctrinal formation, there are things that I do for the community by virtue of being a deacon. There are wake services. People have ceremonies where they need prayers either before or during, and they look on to the deacon to come and help and organize that. People lose persons. I assist in helping them to prepare for those moments, either the liturgy that goes with it or the prayer services that go with it. So there is quite a litany of things that go there.
Wow.
Yeah. And for a good number of years, I was a representative of the Archdiocese of Bamenda in North. When Bishop Eswa was Archbishop. So that too came in. It's a lot of responsibility in there. So there are things that play into that part.
Wow.
Yeah.
So impressed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Anything to add, Mrs. Florence?
Well, the wife of a deacon.
Yes.
As put in one of Paul's writing.
Yes.
Must be honest.
Okay.
In all things. Telling lies, bringing confusion.
No.
Should be a no-no.
Okay.
But one of the difficulties that we face as a deacon and a wife, we are human beings.
That's true.
And sometimes when spouses bring their problems, you tell A you are wrong. A becomes an enemy. And so it becomes how do I even put it? You become an enemy for telling the truth.
Exactly.
And you cannot hold back the truth, even if it's your child.
So you have to keep telling it.
You have to continue to tell the truth and live by the truth.
That's true. Like Archbishop Paul Rebecca.
Yeah.
His
So
motto was the truth shall set you free.
So we are required to follow them wherever they go, given the scandals of harassment, sexual harassment in the United States. There are some that are true, but a lot of them they are not true. Some of them are just exaggerated or made up.
Exactly.
So that's part of the duties, but also to remind them that their first call was the call of matrimonial before the call of holy order.
That's true.
Because sometimes they can go and forget. And if God forbid something happens to their child, the papers will say a Catholic deacon is not going to be deacon Niba Ambe.
Yeah,
You'll be a Catholic, which means you are a deacon, but you're not taking care of your house.
That's true.
You're taking care of the church, but you need to take care of. There should be a balance.
Bear in everything, as
Yes,
Aristotle,
so,
virtue in the middle.
Again, we should be examples
Okay.
of other husbands and wives
Exactly.
by the daily examples that we live.
Yeah.
By the kind of life you live. You don't go here, borrow here.
Exactly.
That's not the life. You should cut your coat according to your material.
Very
You should
good.
live according to the minds of the church. Don't do something that somebody will come and look at you and say, what happened?
That's true.
So what happened to the formation you got?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also good because I've learned a lot from him.
Okay.
He's well read.
Two doctorates.
I'm not the same person I used to be.
Okay.
I wasn't bad, but I think my life is polished.
Okay.
A little bit polished than where it was or what I was before.
Wow.
I see there are things I see now. I can just say, you know what, that's life.
Wow.
But before, I worry about it.
Yes.
But today, it's a different story.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter how people accuse me.
Yes.
I believe that God knows.
God knows everything.
And that time is a
Shall tell.
revealing and a healing factor.
Time is the best.
Yes, time has revealed a lot to me.
Okay.
And thank God I had that faith.
Okay.
My faith in the church has only grown stronger. So I thank him immensely for going into the seminary and holding my hand.
Yes.
And doing the work he does for the city.
Okay.
He's truly been a true example. He's worked for the city for 21 years.
Wow.
At the director level, which is not easy as a minority.
Wow.
He's controlled a lot of contracts and certain positions, which is not...
It's not easy to do with the vocational.
Exactly.
Wow. May God bless you, both of you, and reward you abundantly. And dear viewers, we've come to the end of this scientific interview. We thank you for having listened. We are going to call on Reverend Dr. Niba to bless us, because he's a deacon, he can bless.
Thank you, George, for bringing this conversation through the technology lens to the rest of the world. Thank you and thank God for making this happen. It is our prayer that may this conversation, which came as an inspiration from God, may its output be fulfilled in every possible divine dimensions.